Hello and welcome to Mirror Realm. My name's Nick, known as Wyvern on the Discord servers. Today we're going to be having a look at the July 2025 rules update. Jarrod and I will be discussing it. Welcome, Jarrod.
Hello.
You want to get into it, I think? Let's just
jump right in.
Let's just dive right in and talk about it. I will confess, I've quickly already read these and thought about them a bit. I think you have too, right? But we haven't...
I've read them, but I haven't gone too deep on it. I've just been a bit busy. And we definitely haven't talked about it with each other or anything like that. Yeah.
So...
I mean, we had a little bit of a chat about Pudge. Like, a few little Pudges. Great now, but yeah. Already was, but yeah.
But yeah, I think this is pretty close to whatever you want to call it, like first impressions or something like that. First reactions.
Yeah.
Really, we've not done any playtesting or anything with the rules, that's for sure. So it's very just opinions at this point. It's not just how we feel about them and how we think it will impact things. So I'm not going to read all this text. As the game grows, it needs to change, something like that. I think that's paraphrasing it. Whether you're this avatar or that avatar, read on. Okay, let's read on. Strike the realm, or at least sites. So this is the first one. You now strike sites. It isn't like if you attack a site and it's undefended, then it's life loss. You now just strike the site.
I think it's still considered life loss for the avatar itself, but it counts as striking for whatever's hitting the site. Yes. But I might be wrong.
No, yeah. So they'll still...
Yeah, that was
maybe that... Yeah. It even says it. So you whack the site. You whack damage, deal directly, and it drains life, yeah. So they still lose life, obviously. But from a keyword and mechanics perspective, the fact that you're now striking the site, and it's now considered a strike, is extremely significant for a select list of cards. Basically,
it's also much clearer in the way it just works. Like, it's more intuitive for picking up the game, I think, as well, which I think is a big reason why they changed it. That I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with the change as well. It's a bit unfortunate, like any change like this, that you're now going to have cards that weren't designed or built for this, that already exist, that potentially are not that balanced. But I think on the whole, it's not that bad. Let's say, compared to what it could be, anyway.
I think the most awkward thing with this is the lance change. Just because, now you're definitely going to have to choose between just not attacking with a unit just to get in damage, or having to save the lance for a potential trade into a minion later. And that's going to...
Yeah, or dropping it and attacking, right? So...
Yeah.
But that's more of a limited thing for sure. I mean, I barely see lances in Constructed ever. Obviously, it still matters in Constructed, but they're pretty rare.
Not many. Very few.
Certainly, impact's limited. To be honest, I think that in that particular lens, limited play, Arthurian Legends with Lance tokens, we haven't played it with the change, so we don't know for sure. But my gut feel is that it makes it's worse. Like, the gameplay is worse. But
one thing that is better for it is you now have a way to guarantee, like, just breaking your own lance so that it can't potentially be stolen on your opponent's turn. Like, that. I think that's going to come up, but it does make it feel more intuitive, because almost everybody who's just picked up the game has always, when they attack a site with a lance, they just always intuitively add the extra damage, and it's like, oh no, it doesn't work that way, and then you have to explain the whole rule of how it works. So I think just on an intuitive matter, that's going to be...
I think it's clear. It's very absolutely
more
clear.
Much cleaner. Yeah, exactly.
It's cleaner. I guess where my mind was wandering without conveying it in any actual words, I was sort of... Yeah. My mind was ahead of my speech, so to speak. Was just something on the lines of, if this is... I'm fairly sure that it should have just worked this way all along, but it didn't, right? So this is a good rules change to just, like we're saying, it just makes the rules cleaner, easy to explain. It's definitely something that's an issue. We explain the game to plenty of new players at this point, and it's something that just feels unnecessarily nuanced. That it wasn't a strike, you lost a life or whatever. Like, it's the complexity that it added. It was like adding complexity without really adding any real depth to the gameplay experience, pretty much. So
I think it probably just came up that from the not being able to kill an avatar on death's door through a site, it's probably where it came up, but they probably could have just come up with a cleaner way of doing it originally, which is this that they've gotten around to now, is my guess.
Yep.
But yeah, obviously the big winner for this change is the lifelink units. I haven't quite finished my chain.
Let me finish my chain of thoughts before we move on, because there's too many other things to discuss here. But with the Lance tokens in particular, I think my original chain of thought was the rules should have been this way all along. Changing it this way, whatever. It makes sense. There's no real debate here. It's a good change on the whole. I think it's just the fact that there's legacy cards that exist, and now there's stuff we're going to talk about. But with the Lance tokens in particular, my thought is the rules should have been this way. If they were this way before Arthurian Legends was released, would Lance tokens have said, the next time the unit strikes, next time it strikes a unit, rather than next time it strikes, right?
Yeah.
And I think the answer to that is probably it would have said strikes a unit, right? And then I don't know but that's where my thoughts were, but now you're basically, that's not what the token says, right? The token says something different, but we will end up playing, because we play draft pretty often with Arthurian Legends. We just haven't had one yet since these rule changes. So in the end, we'll know what the difference is, not just with actual experience. But my gut feel is that the limited gameplay experience will be a bit worse with this change, with the it will be worse with the Lance token interactions, and that the Lance tokens and the whole set was designed with the Lances working this way, right? That they only break when they strike a unit, not when they hit a site. So the fact, so I think it's. But, at the end of the day, most people just don't care about limited as well. That's the thing. It's just, at the moment, a big percentage of our personal sorcery experience really is limited play, right? So, it's a big deal for us. Probably most people just don't care too much about it. So, right.
I do, hang on, still on the spot. I do think the second line of, after what you've highlighted, sort of clears up what their intention was. Like, I think it probably still would have worked the way they are, because it's like, just hitting with a lance, like it says there, you're made for dueling, not demolition. So, like, if you're hitting like the ground with a lance, your lance is still going to break. So, like, thematically, it sort of works.
Maybe.
Like, the way it works now is probably the way.
Maybe not. I don't know. Thematically,
on a balance
the idea that you're getting out your sword and you're like slaying some grains of sand in a desert or something, it's like supposed to actually hurt. Like, it's quite
I mean, it's not really a sword, right? Lance is like it's a type of thing.
No, so, the idea that you're attacking a site is quite what's the word? It's thematically, it's it's quite loose. Let's say it's more about like it's. I don't know. I would argue that that like you could argue. That this sentence, for example, after all, lances are made for dueling, not demolition. Well, I would argue that lobbing up on some land that is unoccupied is not a duel, basically. Yeah, I would argue that a duel consists,
so good to be taken either way.
Consists of more than one participant, normally two, but so. You could argue this sentence is weird to me because it feels out of place. It's like, after all, lances are made for dueling, not demolition. And it's like, well, so why are they breaking when there's no duel then?
Yeah, you can definitely take that both ways. I agree.
Yeah, it's just, it's very, I'm not saying, not saying it's bad. Like, I really like the mechanics of how you attack the undefended sites, and it, you're striking or they're losing damage or whatever, and that you have the Death Door mechanic and bloody blah. Like, I'm not quite. All I'm saying is that the theming is quite loose in regards to somehow you are, attacking some site as such that's a hill or a desert or something, and somehow that's supposed to result in you losing life, and then you're tying in, and fine, it can be loose, but now you're trying to, somehow now you're trying to justify that lances are breaking or something, tying it into that. It doesn't make any sense to me. You could argue it easily both ways.
Yeah.
Right, so there's a bunch of other cards that this is going to impact. Like you were saying, the vampires, Naperville Vampire, Galahad, and the Ravens. Blood Ravens? Is that what they're called?
Blood Raven.
Is that it in regards to gaining life on their strike? I think that's it.
I think that was it.
Obviously, they could be more in Gothic.
Any of the cards that force things to strike, your Shadow Strike and all that sort of stuff, but none of those will still be able to be used onto sites because they all have targets involved.
Some stuff is pretty crazy now, like the is it the what's the artifact called?
Mask of Mayhem, is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, I think so. Mask of Mayhem. Now, this obviously, this was basically never played at all. I feel like people will experiment with it now, and it probably has a home in some deck now, just because of the prospect of
just doing double damage to sites. Most aggressive decks are probably pretty happy to at least try it out.
I would think the normal play for this would be just something like you're sort of holding it in hand until
you can get off a good attack.
Yeah, until you just drop it and Death Storm in the same turn, probably. But maybe not. Maybe you just play it and do it. Obviously, it works both ways, so it's it could backfire pretty bad if you play it and don't get big value out of it on the first turn you play it, and then you pass turn, and then they play two of those fire haste minions on their turn or something, and then it's I don't think you'd ever just be jamming it. But I mean, it's got good value in decks that run a lot of small minions as well, because they potentially, not only is it good at getting in for extra damage into sites, but it also helps you trade up as well. So, a lot of interesting things with this card now. Now, because before, if it wasn't just creature combat, it was probably a dead card. But now you can actually leverage it for quite a lot of direct damage. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure it's... So that's a big change. Just got Strike here. See which ones are impacted here. So I think that was the only one from memory, because I think everything else has enemies and things like that. I think there's another artifact. This one does. This Grim Guisarme or whatever it's called. This also. Yeah, I don't think that changes that one, right? Yeah, they'll do double damage to sites now as well. Yeah, before they didn't. I'll just zoom in so people know what we're talking about. But this one may actually. Yeah, when it's small, I actually can't read the text on these cards. So. Yeah, so this one might. Again, it may even be better than the other one in certain decks as well, if that's what you're going for. Yeah. Is that it? The vampire, which we discussed. That might be it. Yeah. So the other big change here, though, is... let's go back. Where are we? So the other big change here is Free City is now trash. Or I don't think it's playable anymore. So now Free City... No, because it's strike undefended sites, and Free City still counts as when you use it to block, it still counts as it defending itself, right? It's still a defended site, so you don't take the damage. Yeah, but it gets struck now. Yeah, what does that matter? Because you'll lose a life now. It's in the changelog. We'll get to the changelog after. So now, it's actually Yeah, so now if you attack a free city and the free city defends itself, the free city will strike back for 3, but it will also just take however much damage it is that it was attacked for as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, because when I first thought of it, I thought that it would work like that, but then I thought, basically it should have worked that way before, because isn't it still your own... Yeah, okay, well, I guess it's just changed it anyway.
No, because before it was the site was undefended, it had life, you lost a life, and it defended itself, so it was defended. It wasn't undefended.
Yeah, but... Yeah, okay, I don't know. But yeah, there's you can now strike undefended sites, and it's still a defended site, was my thought. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah. Yep, but if they've already clarified it, and that's how they're changing it to work.
Anyway, so I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that
does just the semantics of it. It is what it is. We'll get to the changelog. So, so now Free City is pretty bad. I think that's for this specific rule change. I think that's the only site that became trash. I think for Troll Bridge is the other one, but I think that's on entry that it does the damage. So if it kills
that one doesn't even defend anyway, right?
Yeah. So I think pretty big. Obviously, there is some issues, I think, from a card design perspective here. Like, for example, vampires at that. If we go back and just look at the vampire, for 5 mana with only a single threshold for 4 power and airborne, with this ability that's really good now, that is going to be very hard to create cards that sort of compete in that, like other cards that cost, let's say 5 mana 4 powered flyers that have air are going to be very difficult now to design them that will ever realistically displace this card in your deck. For example, at the moment, what is it? Hounds, right? At the moment, we always are saying...
Yeah, there's an argument between the two.
We're having these big conversations.
Yeah, maybe not so much.
And quite often, we're leaning towards the Hounds. Quite often, right? There's a discussion, but quite often you're leaning towards the Hounds. And the main reason why you don't is actually the thresholds, not the ability.
Yeah.
But now, this has got the downside of the thresholds, but also the ability in nearly all decks is just going to be less powerful, pretty much. Not all, but nearly all, right? Yeah. Maybe Hounds is still ultimately playable. It's still a beast, right?
So Hounds is still a very sticky minion, and if you're more interested in having a sticky minion than a bit of life gain, that's probably... This is still where you'd move to, but yeah, it's certainly another hit against Hounds versus Vampire, for sure.
Hounds was not that played as well. Like, it was not... Vampires was already played more than Hounds before this change.
Yeah, and I think that gap's only widened for sure.
This is now just a
it's basically a premium 5-drop now.
Yeah, it's like one of the best. I mean, we're not gonna rank all the cards, but presumably this is now one of the best 10 minions in the whole game, easily.
Maybe.
Well, we're not going to have that conversation, but potentially you could, and it certainly was not in the top 10 before this change. 100% it wasn't.
No.
It was not in the top 20, probably not the top 30.
Wherever it was, it's definitely jumped up quite a number of spots from what it was. I'm more than happy to say that.
Yeah. So...
I think Blood Raven's gone from completely unplayable ever, even in Limited, to actually a consideration in any deck that's running Falconer now. Whereas before, it's like you wouldn't even consider it. It's trash.
Yep, or you consider it if you're running Assorted Animals as well, right? Because is it a beast? No.
I think it is. Yeah, well, it has to be, right? If Falconer can get it.
Yeah. Was it Raven? Yeah, it must be. If it's a Raven, it's a beast, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so... Yeah, or some, Assorted Animals deck, maybe it's part of that package as well, but... Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's certainly playable... in Limited, especially if you have any kind of way to pump it up, I think.
Yeah.
Is that moving on?
I think so. I don't think any other cards were changed by that.
So in summary, we're both happy with the rule change, but it probably should have always been that way. I don't think there's anything too controversial there. I imagine that's the general consensus.
Certainly from a clarity point, it's very good that it's changed this way anyway. It's going to make doing Learn to Play a lot easier.
As well, and the collateral damage here, despite us maybe talking about it a bit, so to speak, is not particularly huge, and there's nothing that's hopefully completely broken now because of it. I think the closest thing that might be is those artifacts we were looking at, like Mask of Mayhem, potentially becomes like, I can easily see there now being meta decks that play out.
Some card that got broken in like a more powerful way, but I think the card that got broken in like the sense of it's now actually just broken, like doesn't work, is Free City, right? So I think that's a card that actually got broken and probably is the clear loser of this rule change.
Yeah.
Went from like a pretty solid card that was always a consideration to now it's just like, let's just may as well throw them in the bin.
Yep. Yep, but that's pretty much always going to be any rule change.
There's always going to be winners and losers, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was already, like you said, like it was pretty solid, but it was always pretty hard to, it was pretty solid, but it only really found a home in some very specific list of decks, and now it's none. But
yeah, now even those ones don't want to play it though, so that's not great, but sure.
Right. The realm's response to interaction. We're introducing a new concept, interacting with the realm. So casting a spell, striking an enemy, activating a special ability, or dealing damage means interacting with the realm. And basically, stealth breaks if you interact, and you can't drop artifacts if you interact. So previously, you couldn't drop if you had attacked, and you lost stealth. When did you lose stealth? If you attacked, or
if you dealt damage?
Or if you, there was some little bit of nuance that was different. I think, or if you dealt damage. Could look it up. Not sure that matters too much. I think there was a bit of nuance in the difference between. So, I think the justification here is to simplify it. You could potentially, now you have an extra keyword that you can work with on cards, like interacting with the realm. Like, whenever this card interacts with the realm, then, it has a triggered ability or something like that. But
I think the most awkward thing for me with this rule is the way they explained it in the video, and basically the name of it, like, interacts with the realm. So apparently moving is not interacting with the realm.
No, and I assumed it was. When I first read it, I'm like, that is so... But, like, when I first read it, I assumed it included moving because it's a working assumption.
Yeah, so I just think it's like... I think for a balanced perspective, having it move would obviously be an issue, but I think they need to call it something else at that point, because now it's going to be very awkward when you try and explain this to newer players, where it's like, all right, interacting with the realm is basically doing anything except moving. It's like, well, so interacting with the realm isn't moving, but you're clearly interacting. So they've gone from trying to make something clearer in the first set, like in the first rule change, which is great, to immediately naming something very unintuitive to what it actually does. So that's a bit awkward for me. That's my main bump against this change. But for balance-wise, I think it's a pretty solid change.
Yeah, and it could have... I'm just thinking... it doesn't matter. It's named now to some degree, and they've obviously thought about the naming. I don't necessarily... I have issues with the name, but no better name is necessarily immediately popping to mind, so it might just be the case of it's... it was thought on a lot, and it was the least worst name that you can come up with. But, yeah, I feel like there's got to be a word that better describes, meaningfully interacting or something like, I don't know. Interacting is just off. It's more just like taking some kind of significant action. But whereas interacting implies any action type of thing, even insignificant, something like... My assumption when I read this, because I was out and about when this came through, so I was just quickly checking on my phone and I was scrolling through. I'm like, I hate this rule change. I hate the idea. I hate that you can't drop an artifact if you moved. I hate it. In limited play, there's so many times when you're moving. How bad is Reckless Squire now? It's got you can't move and give the lance to somebody. But obviously that's not the case. You can move and drop it. So my initial thoughts are not valid as such, but my assumption when I read it was that interacting included moving, because why wouldn't it? That's clearly interacting, as you're saying. So that's probably the biggest issue.
On the drop point that was it Cursed Iron is now the one fringe case we thought it would actually be playable at some point is now just not even a case anymore, so that card just got even worse.
Yeah, pretty funny.
So we're printing this card for a reason for it to exist. Oh, we're just going to rule change so that doesn't need to be happening anymore.
Yeah, it's weird how the rules changes are nerfing cards that aren't even released yet. That was already really fringe. That's, even bigger shame, because I wish we could see the art in the game played, but we just won't get to see it. So
not at all.
I mean, I think the big obvious thing here really is, like, there's a lot of niche stuff that this impacts, but the big one I think in regards to drop is the Philosopher's Stone interaction in particular. That's
this feels like a very targeted rules change towards us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people it was always the case that interaction was happening in some decks, but obviously we built the deck that really, leveraged it to the maximum, let's say, with the, you can see our deck list, it's the, what was the tournament called? Was it Midwinter Championship?
I think that was the one you won, mate. No, yours was
Queens of Midsummer. I think it was the Midwinter. You could check for Midwinter Championship deck, or on the white profiles if you want to see the deck list. But we built a deck that I'll put a link actually to the deck list in the description. But we built a deck that was sort of leveraged this interaction in particular, and I know that somebody that on the design team for Sorcery was in attendance at the event, and sort of eyebrows were raised a little bit, let's say, with that interaction. And just in particular, we were having single turns where we were ending up with 30 plus mana discounted in a single turn.
Yeah, you could potentially draw your whole deck over 1 or 2 turns with the amount of discounts we were generating with that deck in particular. And
and it wasn't a theoretical that you could; it was in practice you did.
It happened. I mean, we both did it to each other in the Swiss, where we both just basically drew our whole decks over a couple of turns, and we're like, all right, now we try and kill each other.
And obviously, as more and more cards get added to the game, the prospect of doing stuff like that is potentially more. I mean, the thing is a weird one, because it was one of the funnest decks ever to play, but probably not to play against. But on the whole, from a balance perspective, I can see that to some degree, like having to worry about, exploiting or leveraging whatever framing you want to use for the rules for that type of thing is sort of limiting design space, if you know what I mean. Like having to worry about that. Yep. It's a combination of limiting, but also potentially making it more interesting, but
opening up more space.
It sort of works a bit both ways, but that's the main one. But there's all sorts of stuff that
it significantly buffs Just a Rock and Shadow Strike and things like that, where now you can't use your artifact a bunch of times and then drop it so that they can't kill it on their turn with those sort of effects. Also, or does this only apply to minions or your avatar as well?
No, it's both. Plus your
what I read, if your minion does any of these things.
Yeah,
so
it does say that, but I'm pretty sure it's both.
Okay.
Maybe so. I mean, you can flip this around. If it says if your unit does any of these things, it doesn't sort of sound very nice. And if you say if you're a minion or your avatar, it may just be a streamlining thing to convey the rule, but potentially confuse people in the process, which isn't great.
Well, there is the changing of the rule of the word "you," right? So maybe it maybe falls under that. Who knows?
Maybe.
We'll get to that one when we get there.
So I think the other big side of this is
the stealth component.
Stealth, which in the case of Morgana makes her a lot worse. I mean, still good, but gone from presumably she was in the conversation as the best minion in the game. I mean, we're not going to have the debate, but presumably she was in. You could make an argument that she was the best minion in the game.
Easily, you definitely made the argument for sure.
I think now, probably not. Like, she
definitely doesn't fall out of like top 10 or anything, but she's still pretty good.
Still really good. I mean, arguably, arguably she was so good before that it wasn't necessarily fair as well.
Yeah, I mean, arguably before you were like stretching mana bases to try and really accommodate the triple red. Now maybe you're like, I don't want to stretch my mana base, so I just don't play her at this point. But if you can accommodate her, you're still jamming her. Like, she's still great, but it might not be like deck warpingly great anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, and it does change. Makes her, it's certainly worse. Obviously, you play a spell, she loses stealth, so now you're sort of thinking twice if you play her and you got, she's got a core or something in what you drew and you got one spare mana. Do you just cast the core that turn, or are you going to wait till next turn, kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's.
I think a big thing that it changes is also like giving her a filler and just having her like be anywhere on the board in particular as just a stealth spellcaster who can like move freely. Where your avatar, you don't like taking steps on your avatar, but you will if you have to. But for Morgana, you're more than happy to take steps around the place. That definitely changes things.
Yeah, it's a big nerf. Like, you're going from, because now not only do you not potentially, because you also got the free stealth attack, right? After you had done casting your spells.
I was just thinking about that. But you can't just like play a removal spell and then get in your free stealth attack. You have to basically change the ordering of the way you want to play your turn out now to potentially guarantee the attack, but then you might not be able to do other things you want to do. It's definitely more limiting.
Outside of Morgana, does it impact anything too much? So, I don't know. Does it? I don't think outside of Morgana anything is too impacted by this.
Oh, well, there's like, the guy who throws around artifacts, the East Assassin, he doesn't break he breaks his stealth now, where I don't think he did before.
Yeah. Not sure if he...
I'm not 100% on that because, we never played playing with him.
Yeah, he does now. Never really seen him play too much. He was already not good enough, really, to see any much constructed play.
I mean, interestingly, does the Kingswood Poacher now instantly break his own stealth from his Genesis? I don't think so, right? But because I mean, he's obviously interacting with the realm, but he's not interacting in the three different.
No, he's not. It's not an activated ability. It's a triggered one.
Yeah.
Whereas this specifically says.
So there's another like clarity thing, right? Of interacting with the realm.
It's not clarity. It's in the.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the clarity of the word, right? Because he's clearly interacting with the realm, but he's not interacting with the realm in the specific way that this name says on the way it actually works. So, just like moving. So that's another awkward situation.
This is triggered, this step, I'm pretty sure, so you would keep...
But it is a special ability, or is it? Yeah, I guess that's another one. It's like, is it? Yeah, activated versus triggered. Is that how it? Differentiates.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, or whatever it is, passive or whatever it is, ongoing.
Okay.
So. This one would have lost it, but it.
But yeah, I'm assuming the card text would override the rules. Would be the way
I think it's only... I don't know how it worked before. Maybe Far East Assassin is now worse, but I don't guess that matters too much because nobody played it anyway. It's mostly just Morgana, I think, is just the big loser here.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not too unhappy about... Like, it was already really good.
It can take a hit and still be alright.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger issue, actually, I think, is just the fact that Arthurian Legends has got no value in the set. And one of the little bit of value that you could actually get from opening boxes was Morgana, and now presumably she's going to be worth a lot less. And then that combined with Ring of Morrigan is now people are banning it in some events and stuff. That is potentially taking a hit in value as well. And they were the only two cards that were really worth anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's... But whatever, it's... a separate consideration. So I think it's. What I would say with this is that there are dropping artifacts after. Before, if you attacked, you couldn't drop. So the difference with the dropping of the artifacts is casting a spell, activating a special ability, or dealing damage. So before,
striking,
you could do one of those three things and still drop. Now we raised in particular the Philosopher.
Well, you used to have to strike and drop still, right? Through because it was only after move like attack you couldn't drop, right? Whereas before you could strike with a different card and still drop.
Yeah, pretty sure.
So that's another change.
But there are a lot of they're not, I guess you would say, important as such from a game balance perspective. But there are all sorts of reasons why you might want to drop an artifact, like you're saying, because you suspect they're playing Just a Rock or Shadowstrike, and you want to cast some spells or do some stuff on your turn, and then potentially drop the artifact, right? So
it's also going to matter for like people playing bells and stuff as well, potentially, maybe not.
And what I would say just generally is that all of the those decisions, for like the decision in particular, right? It's a fringe scenario, but there are so many different fringe scenarios that can exist. Just focus on one for a second, right? Let's say, for argument's sakes, that you decide to drop your artifact because you think they have, like, you attack or whatever, you cast some spells, you do some stuff, and then you think, how can I lose the game from here? Well, if they have Just a Rock, maybe I can lose, so I'm going to drop my artifact. Yeah? And then you pass the turn, and they have Just a Rock. You called it right. You made the high, you made the high play, the high skill play. You win the game because of it. Yeah.
Yep.
They had the Just a Rock. They would have got rid of the artifact. They would have won if you hadn't done it. But you did do it, and you won because you're really good at the game and you made the call. And now
you get punished.
Now you lose the game instead. So what I would say with this change is that, naming convention aside, that we seem to have an issue with, you have streamlined the rules, but in doing so, you stripped away some of the skill of the game, basically, right? And obviously that's just a fine balance in these types of things, but and ultimately it's probably worth it. But I'll just raise the point that picking up and dropping artifacts is part of the decision making in your turn, and now that decision making is curtailed, basically.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a pretty fringe case, but there's all sorts of cases that isn't just to do with Just a Rock, where you might, there is the debate about if you're going to drop an artifact or hold it, and you're potentially worried about Shadowstrike or Just a Rock. But outside of that, there is very often the case of who's going to hold the artifact at the end of my turn, right?
Yeah. And
now potentially before you could have chosen between more than one unit, and now you can't. It's just stuck with whoever had it, right? Because they did any of these things, basically. So, it's just a small amount of skill, but at the end of the day, the way that you become really good at this game is by
min-maxing all the small interactions.
Well, exactly, is by making better decisions more often, and you're more capable of being able to do that if there are, if you're put into the situations effectively, right? Like where you can actually make those decisions. And now you're basically saying is one decision point is stripped away from the game. And going back to that example, now potentially there's games that you would have won with a high skill play, and now you could recognize all of that, but you're just going to lose anyway, basically. And it's not going to be very often. but it's all about percentage points, right? Pretty much. It's all about getting better at these 100 things, and combine those 100 things, make you win 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 4 or 5% more often, or whatever it is. And collectively, it all adds up to something, basically. And now you've just stripped away one little component of it. But on the whole, it's probably worth it in regards to I think on the balance of things. Like, if it had have always worked this way, I wouldn't question it. Let's put it that way.
Yep. And maybe going forward they can do something that, in like their design space wise, they get something that does stuff with this that's, that they couldn't do otherwise. But yeah, at the moment it's basically just a loss for all the cards that it hurts, and the depth in deck construction through the drop mechanic, definitely is just gone now. Outside of it, because now with our deck in particular, right, like that deck's just dead unless, like, down the road there's a way to sack the minions so that they can just automatically drop it, sort of thing, and maybe that comes up. But yeah, until that, until something changes, that sort of thing is those shenanigans.
It's obviously way worse because it just has more moving parts, and it's hard enough as it is to get anything to work in this game because of the massive deck sizes combined with the rarity scheme and number of cards you can include and stuff. Like, there's only so many moving parts you can have to anything before it's just never going to be consistent. But yeah, I mean, all I'm really trying to highlight here is that all the focus on this will be on the Philosopher's Stone, and to some degree rightly so. But it isn't just that it impacts. It impacts lots of small nuanced things that it will spread across many games that most people will never recognise that decision point even existed, but it does. And if you recognise it, sometimes you will, pull a win out of what would have been a loss, basically, if you didn't recognise it. That's all I'm really trying to say. You've a little tiny bit of the skill of the game has been stripped away with this change, is all I'm really trying to say. But it's a really little, tiny amount, though. But every bit counts as well. Is that it for this one?
Yeah, I think so. Just, again, the clarity of the name, oof, that's a big miss for me.
Avatars can now fly. So they can gain the airborne keyword, and they can move diagonally, and presumably benefiting from elevated defense. Yes, the Dragon Lord can stretch its wings. So I think, as far as I know, the Dragon Lord avatar itself, it's only this turn, so it's never going to help you.
Nothing that affects it for the elevated defense yet, but maybe there is more.
I think fringe-wise there is, like, if, for example, let me get this right. I think if you have an airship, the Zephyrin airship.
Oh, that's holding it?
No, it can't. Can only hold minions. If the Zephyrin airship is holding a warhorse and the warhorse is holding your avatar.
Or if you just power flight a warhorse.
Yeah. Or if you power flight. Yeah. So it requires like a chain of interactions, effectively. Yeah, you can gain it on their turn. So it's pretty fringe at the moment, but there obviously could be all sorts of cards in the game that are added in the future that allow you to easily get airborne. I'm not... Whatever. I mean, I personally, I think the main argument here... And unfortunately, this argument's going to apply to everything else and everything else it doesn't apply to, but it isn't the case for. But I can see the main argument here really just being... if your avatar gains airborne but doesn't actually fly, then it's confusing and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I think that argument would also apply to every other keyword, like Void Walk and Burrowing and everything else. And it still can't do any of those things. So they're all still confusing anyway.
Yep. Yeah. So it's like going on the opposite direction of the clarity thing they're trying to do, right? Now it's, now it's like, oh, they can gain this one keyword and get the use of it, but, can't gain the, the void work and all those sort of things. Like they get them, but they can't use them. So it's just added like a bit more uncleanness.
Well,
where
yeah, I guess the difference
is trying to go the other way.
There's a couple of differences, I think. So one is in the rules. So I think it's just that they can't go in the void and they can't go in the subsurface. Is effectively what the rule is. So, you know, having airborne, it is neither of those things, right? It's something separate. So I think going forwards, maybe there's other keywords and stuff, right? So you are basically saying you can gain the keywords potentially, but it just can't go in the void or on the subsurface. Like, whatever. That's the bigger thing, I imagine, which is the issue, is that presumably all or nearly all of the dragons have airborne that they're adding now and ever. Dragons typically fly, as far as I'm not a dragon expert, but I think Colicky Dragon X don't have airborne, actually, but typically they're going to have airborne, and the Dragon Lord Art, he's got wings. I can totally see that the expectation is going to be that he's got airborne, if you know what I mean, just because of art and mechanics.
But I mean, under that same logic, he should be a dragon, and he's not. Clearly, it looks like a dragon. He's got wings. Like, why isn't he a dragon? If under that same logic,
why isn't he a dragon? I mean,
because he's not a dragon creature type. He's an avatar. He doesn't have a dragon creature type.
No, I'm not. It's not. So, okay, maybe you're getting too bound in logic. I'm not talking about logic. I'm just talking about. Well, I mean, take a random person, see a picture of something that has wings. They assume it can fly. I think that's.
Yeah, but I mean, by that same logic, you see a dragon, you think it's a dragon, where he's not a dragon.
Well, he's a dragon lord, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not too. I think it's totally fine to have a avatar that's a dragon character.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. Well, I'm just like, if you by the exact logic you just used, you can just completely counter it just by looking at the card and saying it looks like a dragon, but it's not a dragon. So, whereas he's saying he's got wings, he should be able to fly. Does that not make sense?
Yeah, you could. But I'm just saying,
I don't really have a problem with this rule. I'm just saying, I'm just going from a clarity standpoint of like, most of these things they're changing them to try and make them more clear. Whereas this one...
No, I don't think it is.
Really
this isn't the reason.
Clear?
This has got nothing to do with making it more clear. This is just... I'm not speaking from a point of an authority here. I believe, just in my opinion, I believe the reason for this rule change has got nothing to do with anything else in the set. It's literally to do with this mini set and this avatar, that there's just an expectation that due to the nature of what the card says, that the working assumption from most people, especially new players, are going to be that they fly when they do it, that they're going to get airborne. That's going to be the assumption. Now, personally, I think that for this particular announcement and this particular image, it would have been better to not have the card sitting to the right of it to be one that has Void Walk, which it doesn't gain. And that it would have been better to have just picked any other dragon that it actually doesn't have such a keyword that doesn't gain, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because in the case of the other avatar,
dragon,
presumably you are immune to fire and you can do all that other stuff, right? You just gain all the text on the one on the left, right? But on the one on the right, you basically gain all of the text except for the text that you don't gain. And I think it's probably would have been better to have just chosen a different image to put here, or have a different avatar, because different dragon, because presumably pretty much all of the dragons in this set don't have Void Walk or Burrowing, and it's just going to be this one or maybe another one or whatever, right?
Yeah, they could have just picked like a different dragon to reveal as they reveal here.
But in this particular case, you've just got this weird combination of stuff that's just a little bit confusing. But whatever. So I mean, we're getting a bit hung up on our little like,
yeah, at the end of that, I mean,
rather than focusing on the rule change itself. I mean, it's pretty fringe. It's gonna matter. Like, I don't know how you. The fact that the Dragon Lord only gets it for your turn and it doesn't carry over, it's, whatever. It's nice. Maybe it means
it mostly doesn't matter if you need to like potentially move to, because say you gained airborne and you needed to move to use like the discard, even just the discard on the other one, right? Something like that. Maybe that matters. But positional based things where he moves and does it, like that's where it's going to come up the most, I think. Like maybe he use the ability, gain airborne, move to a diagonal square, and then play, firebolts per se, or something like that, like a positional spell.
Yeah, or even have, the Ignis Rex ability, for example, because we're looking at it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I said that one already, but yeah, like, so there's a few different things where it potentially matters for the diagonal move, but, maybe you buff his attack and you need to, get in an attack on a diagonal or something, and that will matter, but overall, I don't think...
Maybe they have a Blood Ravens in their deck. Maybe your opponent has Blood Ravens for you to pick off. So it's not nothing, but I don't think it's anything too big. The bigger conversation, I think, is around how much would it impact gameplay if you could relatively easily gain airborne on your opponent's turn. That's the bigger one.
I was thinking about it. I don't think it changes too much, right? Because if you think about it, how many games actually end on death's door by your avatar getting attacked with a minion? It's very few. It's generally like decks are built in such a way that you normally have a way to finish them off. It would matter in limited, guaranteed, like granted, but that'd be pretty big there. But in constructed itself, I can't even think of the last time I was attacked for a death's door. It wasn't this year.
Yeah.
So I think the game's evolved in such a way that it you definitely wouldn't want to rely on it. Let me put it that way.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's just don't think it's going to impact anything too much. Pretty much.
Yeah, it definitely feels more of a thematic rule change.
It's nowhere near as impactful as the previous two things. Let's put it that way.
No, not at all. And they're not even the most impactful ones.
This is the most. I mean, do you want to move on from this one? I don't think there's much else here to say. I mean,
I don't think. I think we. I
mean, I don't know how I came. I don't care. I mean, with this in particular, avatars can fly, avatars can not fly. Not too bothered either way. It's not going to matter much. It's a bit fringe. It's not.
Yeah, the only real thing I bump against is they can fly, but they can't do anything else. So it's like, I don't know.
It's not even needed to. It's just Void Walk or Burrowing or Submerge. Everything else they can do, as far as I know. That's what I was saying. Going back, I think it's just a bit unfortunate that they,
But
there's only a couple of other things.
Isn't that every movement keyword?
What's that?
That's basically every movement keyword outside of like movement plus X, right? So they can do one of them, but not the others.
Yeah, I'm not.
There's only 4 movement keywords, right? I'm not.
There's missing the landbound and waterbound. I think it would still apply. I don't know. That's a good question. Would they apply to an avatar if they got them? If there was a dragon that was landbound?
Well, an avatar can't be disabled, so it wouldn't apply to them.
Yeah.
Right. They could go from being like landbound and go onto a water site, but not have the disadvantage of being disabled when you're not, because that's what happens when you move off, right? Was that right?
If you are disabled if you are, that's what the rule is. Can't be disabled. But we'll see. I don't know if it'll be covered in. I'm not sure on the nuance of it all, but yeah, it's because I think there is a difference here. Like, I'll be interested to know. I'm not sure what the answer is, and technically maybe it doesn't matter a lot, but it's in the nuance. Like, does the like, for example, if the Dragon Lord has the Kalistus, is that how you would pronounce that one? I don't know. If you're that dragon, if you gain that ability...
I would say it's Celestus.
Celestus.
Yeah, sounds more celestial, right? And that's basically, like, if you look at the art, it's basically a celestial dragon. So that'd be my guess.
It's just very weird spelling to start with CAE, because if it's celestial is CE. But anyways, anyways, if you gain those abilities, does the Dragon Lord actually gain Void Walk, but just can't go in the Void because he's an avatar in the same way that he can't become disabled because he's an avatar in the same way. Do you know what I mean? But he actually has Void Walk. So, for example, if you had another minion or an aura or something that said, all units with Void Walk get +1 power, he'd still get the +1 power. He just can't go in Void. Right?
Yep.
So I think if it's the case that they literally gains all the keywords, he still has Void Walk. He just can't go in the Void because he's an avatar. Like, to me, I don't know if it does work that way, but I think that would be the cleanest way to explain it with the rules. Generally, I would certainly find that easier to explain, to just say, look, gets everything.
Yeah.
But avatars can't go in the Void, and they can't be disabled, and they can't go on the subsurface. Full stop. Right?
Yeah.
But it's like you're not getting different combinations of keywords and stuff. So I don't know if that's actually what the case is, but mechanically, I would find that way easier to explain than in all this other stuff. And maybe that is how it works. I'm not sure if it'll be in the changelog or we'll check afterwards. But I'm not gonna read the rules now to double check that. But if it doesn't work that way, I would suggest maybe think about making it work that way, because it would definitely help when teaching the game, I think, if it did work that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So immobile means immobile. Let's put this one to rest. I'm not sure.
I think this is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Is there only you means you is the only other one, right? Or is it? Oh no, there's a few others. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the biggest one impacting gameplay for sure. It's absolutely massive, and all the cards that have immobile were clearly, that are in the game at the moment, were clearly designed from a balance perspective to apply to the previous version of the rule than this version of the rule. And the previous version of the rule was just way more restrictive. And a lot of those restrictions have now been removed.
Massive drawback.
It was a massive... it was a combination of like a massive drawback if your own stuff had it, as well as something that was very good to have to give to your opponent, so to speak. So you could, your own defensive card, like you have cards that give stuff to your opponent that made your opponent stuff immobile. That was good to do. And if your own stuff had immobile, that was bad, typically, right? And now it's just so watered down, the effect in regards to how bad it is, that all of those cards are basically unbalanced as such.
The defensive options became very poor, if not complete. Like, Quagmire became effectively unplayable. I think Bog probably did too, but it already wasn't seeing too much play. But it's definitely going to affect draft by quite a bit.
I'll cut you off a little bit, just in case someone's listening and doesn't understand what the rules change is, because we haven't actually explained what the rules change is.
Oh, yeah.
So previously it was the case that an immobile unit, it couldn't use the move and attack ability, it couldn't use the defend ability, it couldn't use the intercept ability, but if it was attacked, it would still deal damage back, and its text box was still turned on. And then disabled was basically the same as immobile, except that the text box was turned off and it didn't deal damage back when attacked. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Now, disabled... Oh, are you going to change what I said?
No, I was just agreeing. I think that's it.
And then also, I think, and disabled units couldn't shoot projectiles, I think, but immobile
they can't
could. And now disabled is the same as it was before, but immobile is very different. So now all immobile is it can't move itself. That's it. So it can still... But importantly, in all of this, the main thing here is that it can attack and it can defend at its current location, which is absolutely huge, basically, in both terms. So if we look at some cards here, we'll talk about some obvious losers first. Yeah.
So the big losers...
There's only 5. Let's just talk through them from...
I think it's best to just do them in groups, right? Because it's basically...
Quagmire
the sites are the massive losers.
So
Quagmire in particular effectively became unplayable, because now you can only really play it in a front sight for it to particularly do anything. Because once they're on your site, you don't really mind. They don't really care that much if they can't move. They're just going to start whacking your site. So in that sense, it's pretty bad. Like, it doesn't kill red caps anymore either once they're on your side. Like, it's effectively gone from a very good defensive site to unplayable, like in the way Free City has. But even more punishing. Bog, basically the same position, except it was only really seeing play in limited anyway, where it was quite good. Now it's, all the same drawbacks as Quagmire, except even more limited, because it's like you have to play it as a completely reactive site to whenever they play something on their own side, which, you have to have an open frontline site to be able to do it effectively most of the time, so pretty awkward there. So yeah, they're the absolute big losers. They've gone from good to unplayable.
Bog was already not played, like you're saying, in constructed, right? Yeah, in limited. Yeah. We did get a question on our limited play series about how the rules changes are going to impact the card evaluations. When we pick that series back up, we'll have to quickly have a conversation and redo the ratings for some cards, and this is obviously going to go down in its ratings.
Yep. I think everything we lance also probably goes down, but we'll finish off with this set of cards first.
Move on.
Entangled Terrain is probably the
Entangled Terrain.
Most, because that one's sort of gone from
fringe playable.
Basically, yeah. So I think it's gone from. This potentially became maybe. Yeah, it's just a whole different card now, basically, because it used to be a very defensive card, where maybe you played one to common sense for it in a package to have block out four of your own sites just so they can't be attacked for a few turns, or you played it in Battle Mage Avatar of Earth sort of thing as just a way to let your avatar get in some undefended attacks. But now it's completely lost that whole section of use. But now it's potentially gaining use in Enchantress, as just a beta. I'm sure there's some other fringe. I thought of some other fringe cases for it.
Yeah, Enchantress in particular, it's way better.
I can't remember at the moment.
Because you can play it on their side of the board, on 4 of their squares, if they're stupid enough to have 4 sites to let you do it.
Yeah.
But in that case, effectively you get to, if they play anything it can't move, and then you can animate it and hit. And also I think how it works is when you animate it and attack, you pick one of the sites to attack and you just pick the one that they're on. So it's actually way better in Enchantress, but way worse for everything else.
Unit.
The more likely application is that you play it on over 2 of their sites and 2 of your sites, right? Which would still be pretty good. They would have to play basically 2 minions, 1 on each of their 2 sites, in order to have
and they'd have to be more or bigger, otherwise they're just getting picked off for free.
So it's before it was real. I mean, I'm sure people tried to make it work, but it was obviously somewhere between bad and at the very least very clunky in Enchantress. Whereas now it's not clunky at all. Yeah,
now it's potentially one of the better ones.
Yeah, I mean, I can see people.
There's nothing else no other real Earth to at the moment to suit up with it, so it's probably not going to happen. But it's.
No, but you do get, for example, Common Sense to be able to fetch it as well. I don't know if there's other ordinary auras. Well, I'm not going to go too much.
I don't think there is.
Dive in Enchantress, but all right, we're doing it. Let's just quickly. Let's just look at what auras there are, because there's not a lot. So, there's Rest in Peace, which you probably wouldn't have.
Wall of Brambles, which you wouldn't have either.
Crusade, I don't think there is. So you wouldn't, obviously it would be, it's not going to be a mono element. Most Enchantress decks are 3 elements, so normally they're the other 3, right? So you're talking about swapping out one of those other 3 for...
It's likely the other 3 are still better.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be water, typically, I would have thought. So it's going to be fire or air, but I don't know. Anyways, I know that Zaglin, I was speaking to him in the past. I know he was trying to get Earth one, a variant with Earth working, and wasn't quite good enough. But now maybe it's a little bit better. And also, who knows, right? In Gothic, there could be some awesome Earth and auras as well going forward. So you just don't know. But
certainly the card has completely changed its identity. Whereas the other 2 went from being good to unplayable.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's just it went from a fringe playable to just as fringe playable, but in a whole different set of circumstances. Is the way I see that card now. I think Thankless Squire is the next one we do.
Yeah, and this one is just, still is never playable and constructed. Still is unplayable and constructed. So let's just skip the constructed chat and just go to limited only. It's a little bit better.
I mean, clearly it's better because it can actually defend a site now, right? Like you're basically going to be a 4/1 defender.
That's right. First. Yeah, that kills most stuff.
Yeah, but it's mostly. I think if this change came in without the drop change, potentially this guy's better. But maybe it probably doesn't really interact with the drop change much for him.
Because you can't. Yeah,
but yeah, it's most likely it's going to be you play him, you give one person, like you play him onto a different unit, you give that unit a lance, and then he's just sitting around protecting the site that he's on. So he's definitely gotten a lot better because he went from utter garbage to
especially if you have like a siege drone or a warhorse, you can like move him onto their side of the board. Like
that was the thing I was changing because of the way they changed the lances breaking on sites. Now you don't want him to attack sites either, realistically. So I think that was the line of thought I saw when I first saw this change for this guy in particular. I just forgot it.
It's a combination. Lances are worse, right? And he's probably unplayable. I mean, I honestly was thinking about the squires generally. I think they're all worse, but it's hard to say that for sure without us playing. But I think all the squires are worse now because of that other change. But
they all definitely lost some value, but I do think the ones that were playable are still playable. I don't think they went from playable to unplayable because the lance tricks are still, because they're still going to be good. Just having a lance and picking off a minion is still going to be important. But overall, they did get a little bit weaker because you can't just put a lance on something and then all of a sudden your guy's unblockable unless they're chump blocking. Now it's like you get one attack with it being unblockable and then they're probably going to attack it on their turn. And so definitely things have changed. But
probably this one's my gut feel is, we'll talk about it after because it doesn't matter for this video, but this one's probably a little bit better for limited, or at least maybe better, maybe worse. There's a big conversation, whereas the other three are all just a little bit worse, pretty sure.
Well, it's clearly better. Like it's not worse because it went from having the option of defending and attack, being able to be moved and then attack, even if it broke all its own lances, to just not ever having that option. So clearly it's better. But whether or not it's better enough to ever be still willing to play it, who knows? But yeah, obviously Pudge is the big
one
here.
the big winner.
I mean, this card went from being really good to, oh man, this card probably needs to be changed in some way. It's so ridiculous.
And we'll see how
that cost.
There's some power creep. Power creep normally that happens over time with sets, but this time it's just happening with rules. Well, we were saying this is the one thing we actually were messaging a little bit about because it's just like maybe he's not the best creature in the game now, but maybe he is. Maybe he is
definitely in the talk now.
Yeah, like he's certainly in the top 5. Certainly, like I don't think there's any debate about that, but he wasn't before.
I mean, the real debate for me is
he's gained so many spots with this change, like in the overall like minion rankings in the whole game. Look, he's leaped up some crazy amount of spots. Is the idea that if you can just get him onto their side of the board anyhow, whatever that may be, right? Like a warhorse or a blink or whatever. Riptide, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you can just punch him for 5 every turn. That's huge. That you can jam him on a site to the turn that you play him, he can defend. That's huge. Those two things are huge.
Yeah, and then he still does all his old shenanigans where you just jam him direct line in front of their avatar. Now they have to move, and then you still have the potential of just moving Pudge and whacking their sites forever. Because you only ever really need to move him once, and then all of a sudden he's just attacking for 5 every turn.
Yeah, you're forcing them to basically have to kill him instead of having the option to run away from him, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
There's only you have to kill him once you can do that. And obviously there's other minions also that you have to kill as well. But but he's clearly just way better. He's just really, really, really what was a clear drawback is now just it's a bit of a drawback, but it's pretty easy to to work around that drawback in lots of deck not all deck archetypes though, not all, but lots. You got lots of options, right, to move him.
I think every deck sort of has the option to move him now outside of an Earth deck by itself. So as long as you splash in any other element, you're gonna have good options to move him. You know, like Fire's got Warhorse, Air's got like a million different options. Water's got like, what they got? They got like Riptide through like floodplains and things like that. And
yeah, it's a bit more clunky with water potentially.
It is a bit more clunky, but
having said that, like a lot of other decks do play water. So in that particular case, which would be half the time ish, you wouldn't have to. But yeah, it's a little bit clunkier with water. It's a lot less clunky with air or fire.
Like and all that sort of stuff. So, they've got enough mobility that it's like, you generally don't want to pair those two elements together anyway, because they really synergize very poorly. But, it's clear upgrade in every air deck that wants to play him. Because then you have access to 4 blinks, 4 grapples, 4 common sense to get both of those. So you're always going to have a way to move him. And it was already very good in that element package as well, so...
Yeah, just a big winner. I expect to see him popping up in lots of decks. Yeah, I think he's the biggest winner out of all the rule changes. From just a brief little bit that we've talked about and thought about. Yeah, Pudge and Vampire are the two biggest winners, but in that order. Yeah, Vampire's a very big winner, but I think Pudge won more than Vampire. But yeah, it's still absolutely incredible. You means, is there more to say about that? I mean, it's I don't think so. I think we went through every card that changed. It's interesting that there's only 5 cards that have Immobile, so I guess it's, if you're going to do it, it's, it was really just, nobody's going to be too sad that these other 4 cards are a bit worse. It's just Pudge getting so much better, and I guess they knew it, and I guess it's just like, well, at the end of the day, one creature in the game has to be the best creature. Why can't it be Pudge? I guess. Yeah. I guess. And like, it's not clear. Interesting now that the argument between what is the best creature is now just between 2 Earth creatures. Yeah. Yep. I think it's... Yeah, I mean, especially, because it's important as well, the rarity, right? Like, most of the other stuff, like Morgana and these real powerful stuff, they're unique. Right. Whereas Pudge, you can say 3 under this rule change, he probably would be unique now, right? Now, but you can just play 3. Yeah, I think so. Or, I think so. Or, if not, then Elite, but... Yeah. But at the end of the day... At least he's got double Earth threshold. Probably is not very good in Archimago. I would have thought, broadly, like, not really any synergy there. I mean, you could still just jam him in, and he would still be a pretty good threat. And he's pretty easy to move around in that deck, but yeah. So I can see the fact that he's got a buff, and it's not probably going to help the deck that everybody's most worried about, I suppose, is fine. Because it would be more of a problem if he was also going to be awesome in Archmage as well. I mean, that deck got hurt by quite a bit, right? Like, you can't play Quagmires anymore. I think... Yeah. Not sure if any of the other rules changes change things, but they potentially do. Well, but losing Quagmire is going to be big. The Philosopher Stone dropping can impact some Archimago decks. Yeah, play other spellcasters. At least through Grandmasters and stuff. If you're not playing any of the others, gets a little bit of a buff by this You Means You change. Because now, which we'll get into after, but now in the changelog, but now Archimago, if you have his ability can be used, it's used by you, not by Archimago. His ability to move 3. So now, if you have another spellcaster, the other spellcaster can use the Archimago ability, so to speak. So he's a little bit of a buff from that. It's a little bit. It's not anything too significant, but yeah. So You means you, except when it doesn't, which is pretty funny. Yeah, man, they're really unsure of how they want it to work. This rule seems to have changed on different avatars over and over and over. Yeah, they've gone back and forth, but they've settled on You means you, which, for now, to be fair, I say except when it doesn't. But there's only one avatar, which is Avatar. Avatar of Earth is the only exception. So You means you, except Avatar of Earth, it doesn't mean you. It means Avatar of Earth. Because Avatar of Earth says +1 for each Earth site next to you or something like that. Yeah. Rather than... Nearby. Yeah, nearby. +1. Nearby you. something. Let's just pull up the wording.
Yeah, so you just rock up to a game and you just sit a bunch of earth thresholds around your belly. Like, yes, I'm a big boy now.
Yeah, +1. Yeah, for each nearby earth site. Yeah, that'd be pretty funny if you just like
just bring a stack.
You just like tape a whole bunch of earth sites on your belt and wrap it around you.
Just come with like a shirt with a bunch of sleeves on it, and you just like fill them all up with earth sites.
So it's been errated, so you can't do that. Unfortunately, it doesn't. This one doesn't mean you. So
yeah.
Our plan is undone. We're gonna show up.
Yeah, I'm sure if they reprinted this one, it would just say Avatar of Earth instead of you. Like you, Avatar of Earth has +1 power.
Yeah, I think it would just say +1 power for each nearby Earth site, right? The rest of the text is. So anyway, but obviously that's from Alpha. You can find whatever. So it's just that's cleared up. I think it's good. I think it was always confusing. I think you don't want it to be confusing.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward when like they all say like a bunch of them say you and they all work differently. Like that at different points in time, they've all worked in different ways as well. So it's like you're never really sure which one works which way, and if your knowledge is even up to date, like because sometimes they just change it and you haven't realized, and then all of a sudden it's changed. And
there was some bad calls there. So I think when Arthurian Legends came out, they did the Spark Mage to be you as in the Spark Mage and not you, because they were worried about Merlin was going to be too broken with it. But everyone totally miscalled that, and Merlin was totally trash. And that was not you didn't need to change the rules to worry about that one specific interaction. And Spark Mage basically went on to do, as far as I know, absolutely nothing off the back of Arthurian when everyone was completely worried about it. So I don't know. I think it's way better that it's just not confusing, and that if you have a keyword like you, it just means always the same thing. Not something different on each avatar that's just floating back and forth. So
hopefully they just stick with this one.
What's that? Sorry.
And hopefully they just stick with this one instead of mixing it up again.
Hopefully, yeah. And obviously you've just got one exception with Avatar of Earth. That's like it's not even like at the end of the day, that's one that no one's going to be confused what it meant anyway.
Yeah.
And it is from Alpha, so it's not a lot of people have the card anyway. So, and it's. Yeah, I think it's just fine. You means you, and most avatars when you means you get a little bit better, pretty much.
Yeah.
None of them get worse, right? As far as I know, as a result of this change.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
So, yep, good change. You just want it to not be confusing, especially in particular, like you were saying, and we went on a bit of a thing there, but in particular when different avatars like had different interactions with the word you, that's the worst scenario, right?
Yeah,
you can mean you as the player or you as the avatar, but pick one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, either way is fine, but there has to be a different
answer depending on the avatar. That's like the worst. So big units, clearer language, oversized units, those glorious units that occupy more than one location have always pushed the bounds of the board. But how do cards that say its site or its location interact with something that big? You pick a single site or location it occupies, respectively. This isn't clear what this even means to me without going into the changelog.
Yeah, okay.
Because
I think they went over it in the video, but I can't remember.
Don't you only pick? Yeah, so I think you only pick though. So spin attack is So this is way worse. Before it was like awesome. There was a whole deck built around that.
It seems odd that they decided it's just the one location it's in, whereas not like I would have thought that if they're gonna make it clear, you just pick all the locations that it's in when it says its location, because that is its location. It's all of those places. So that seems the awkward thing for me with this, realistically.
I think it's still unclear, as far as I know, its interaction with Landede. I think there's no decision made on this one with that interaction.
I mean, under the new rule, I don't know. Under the new rules, it seems like it should just be clear that you pick one, because you're only just picking one.
No, because because it doesn't say its site or its location. Here it says for how do cards that say its site or its location interact. This card does not say its site or its location. Yeah,
so they didn't even really. So I don't know.
This is undecided as far as I know.
So surely this site should just have the same rule. Like they should have just added this site as the third clarifying thing, I guess. If they're going to have, they probably should have just looked through all the cards that
probably,
big things
interact with.
I
guess we'll get confirmation, and I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, previously it was all sites, and nobody played it anyway. So.
Yeah.
I think this on the whole is obviously certainly hurts that spin attack Enchantress deck that looked really interesting, and that probably wasn't good enough to be S tier, and now definitely isn't. Now it's horrible.
I'd say Enchantress is obviously the one that is affected by this most, because not like as the card pool is, the only other big units don't really get played anyway.
Yeah, is there Mountain? Is there more than one? Is it just
Mountain Giant and Mega Amoeba, right? I suppose Mega Amoeba would count.
Yep. Okay. Not sure. I'm too. It's not space that we operated in much, to be honest. This one.
No. And I don't know if calling them big units versus oversized unit even really changes anything. Like, not personal. I mean, it's shorter on a... Well, I suppose it's one word, but it's technically longer. Just pure letters, right? Is it? 9 versus 8 in the space?
Even what they're calling oversized units? What is they?
I think they're calling them oversized.
Yeah, okay. They weren't even called... I don't even know what they were called before anyway, to be honest. That's how much I...
Maybe large, I think large? I don't even know. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Maybe they just didn't have like a specific actual name for them before, but surely they did. But it's obviously just to clarify it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, they're just picking a way that they want it to work, right? And however it turns out, it turns out. But I think as it is currently,
it's probably
it doesn't
pretty
change
similar to the drop thing, to be honest, with Philosopher Stone, in that, for stuff that was actually operating in the space of this specific interaction, it matters a lot, right?
Yeah.
And for everything else, it doesn't matter at all. So, yeah, I feel like I said, we didn't operate within this space in our deck, so that we never really had anything that mattered for this. But I can definitely see having a really sad moment right now for somebody whose favorite deck was operating in this space.
Absolutely! This one's definitely going to ruffle someone's feathers, but we don't know who that person is. Maybe it's Zalem. maybe Zalem's absolutely molding over this change and.
I'm not sure if that was his Enchantress.
Like they're kicking puppies, he's so upset.
Yeah. Yep, yeah. So, but it's similar arguments, right? Like, you got to make a decision one way or the other. You don't want it to be confusing. It's going to change how you want to design cards that operate within that space in the future. So you just want to pick a direction and go with it. Basically.
Yeah.
And I suspect the reason why this is happening now, because it's so fringe, I suspect the reason why this is happening is because there are cards in Gothic that are operating in this space, basically.
Yeah.
Intercept made simple. Intercept has previously been a little tricky to explain to new players.
I don't even know if this makes it more simple.
Yeah, this is my main issue with the change in the rule, is that we've already tried to explain it to people who found the old Intercept rule easier to understand than the new Intercept rule, basically. So it's, at best, it's similarly difficult to explain. So it's not, yeah. But I'm not sure if that's the main reason to have done this rule change. I think the bigger reason might be for advanced rules interactions and the story line. Is that what it's called? Sorry,
yeah. I think that is a bit like I agree that it should have been done, but the way that it's like you can only intercept at the end doesn't really.
Yeah, it's hard to explain because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's not logical, right? Like you're literally past me. Why can't I stop you? It's like thematically, it's. But I think, like I said, I don't think the reason for this is what they're. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe maybe that is true for their experience, but we'll see because we teach the game to a lot of new players. Honestly, I don't see this seeing.
I think you just need to call it not like something that's not Intercept, right? You just call it something else, and then all of a sudden people will just understand this. Because like it is easy to understand under the fact that if you end up in the same square, you can just defend against them, basically.
It's interesting. Like I wonder if that should have just been the rule. Like you just literally have the option to defend.
It shouldn't be two separate things. Yeah, it should be if they end up in your square, you can defend it. But I suppose it's different, right? Because like you can't move in to defend that one, whereas you can with actually defend. But yeah, it could just be like a way to understand it. I don't know. It's an awkward thing, and clearly they understand that it's an awkward thing because they were considering removing it, and then they were, they've been trying to work out how to make this thing work. And I think, Intercept made simple. This has not done it, I don't think. But maybe it's more simple. I'm not sure. It is more simple, right? Because now you can't...
okay, so it may not be more simple through the lens of explaining it to a new player, which is what it says here. But I think it's definitely more simple through the lens of having extremely complicated scenarios and resolving them through the storyline or whatever it's called.
Yes.
So... which is going to be, at the end of the day, as more and more and more cards get added to the game, you're going to end up with more and more and more crazy interactions. And having as a judge, right, in an event, you don't want to... what you want is a situation is, these are the rules, and if you're a judge, you know the rules, and you can look at the board, right, look at a situation, and you can say, this is exactly what happens and why, yeah?
Yeah.
And I think this version of the Intercept rule, less about the Intercept and more about the resolution, the fact that you move, and then after you move, you choose if you're going to attack or not, and basically nothing happens. The movement before used to be like each step was a separate step on the timeline and a separate decision to potentially intercept and so on it was much more complicated. The resolution.
Yeah.
Now it's less complicated. The resolution, but the explaining of how it works, I'm not sure it's less complicated. And it's certainly less intuitive, like that you literally like walking past me, why can't I stop you, kind of thing.
Yeah, like surely I could just stick a hand out, trip him up, grab him.
You literally treading on my toes, and I can't stop you, kind of thing. Like it's a bit wonky, but so I think there's a couple of things here. So one. And I suppose it also doesn't cover, in the way they've explained it, how airborne interacts with it either. I assume it's still the same way? Yeah, it's still the same. Yep. They haven't explained it here, but this is obviously just a couple of sentence summary.
A cool thing, yeah.
Yeah. So it's still the same. I believe it's still the same, which we'll have to check, that range can intercept airborne as well. I don't think anything's changed there. So there are some ramifications for this. I mean, at the end of the day, the other thing here as well is like, is it better that this exists as the Intercept rule, or it was just scrapped altogether and didn't exist? That's one question.
I think it's better that it exists, because getting rid of it is just strictly a bad thing, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, it felt that way. I mean, it was playing the online league with the
well, for me, like it going away, it was a big reason why I didn't play the league after the one that I won, because I didn't want to deal with the intercept rule again. Like it not being there, I thought it was too important to actually be in the game.
And the reality is that Yeah. So I think it's definitely a better game with the Intercept rule without, and it ties back to a way more solid reasoning, like we were talking about before with the changes to the dropping of the artifacts and stuff, right? Like there are all sorts of situations where the existence of this rule allows you to leverage your skill in the game to get more wins, right? Extra percentage points in your win rate.
Yep.
The existence of the Intercept rule allows better players to win more often, in pretty simple terms, right? Because they can play and plan and build their decks and utilize the rule or the mechanic or whatever for it to matter. And actually, if you take a step back for a second, the 90-something% of the time, I wouldn't want to say 99, but 90-something, there's no difference in the two Intercept rules. Because if whatever the thing is that's moving only has a movement of 1, it's the same rule.
Yeah.
It only matters when they have a movement of more than 1 and that they moved through somewhere that had a unit that was untapped, right? Before where they landed. So
it also makes movement plus X even better than it used to be.
Yep. Yeah, and already got a big buff when you could utilize it to defend, because that was on a previous rule change, and now it's buffed again. And
now it's going to be incredible for attacking.
Yeah.
Because now basically things that have movement plus X, it's going to be almost impossible to defend against them.
Well, I mean, it was already the case that, like saying in the online league, already had no Intercept rule, right? So it was already like that. But yeah, the extra movement is pretty good, and stuff like Cloud Spirit has had a premium, is regarded as like a premium minion generally, I think, and it has done for some time now. This makes it even better.
There's nowhere on the board it can't go now.
Probably before it wasn't intercepted a lot anyway, because it had airborne.
Because it would need.
But land units with extra movement, like stuff without airborne but with extra movement, is way better now. 7 League Boots is better, because you can't be intercepted. So if going to a lot of different sites in one turn matters, especially like opponent sites, like Mega Amoeba, for example, right? You just move and they just can't intercept it the whole way.
Yeah, and I mean, 7 League Accept just basically says unblockable now.
Yep. Yeah, but like I'm saying, like importantly, you can also purposely go through whatever sites you want if that mattered. Like if you could, leave a trail of fire and kill everything on the way, or Mega Amoeba get bigger or whatever. Like again, it was already the case in the online league because there was no interceptor rule when nobody was playing Mega Amoeba or anything. But it certainly changes things. And on the whole, just going forwards, movement plus whatever is just better. I'm happy that they didn't scrap. I mean, my main takeaway from this more than anything was just, I don't know if I like it or not compared to what it was. But I'm very relieved that they didn't just scrap it and they kept it in the game. Like, I'm really relieved. And,
I agree with that. And
not, like I was saying, 90-something% of the time, which is way closer than 100 than 90 as well. 95% plus of the time, it's no different.
The same rule.
Yeah, it's the same outcome. But potentially going forwards, you get a premium value on minions that can have the extra movement and get a different outcome, basically, right? As well. So maybe it happens a little bit more often. But I think, even with stuff with extra movement, even if that's true, you're still always going to be talking, like the overwhelmingly large majority of the time, it's going to be the same outcome under both rules. And then the other question that's left here is it actually easier to teach to a new player or not? And I think I don't know about that. They're very similar.
Yeah, probably fairly. I think if it wasn't called Intercept, it would be clearer.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, like we're saying, right? It gives conveys the wrong meaning as to how you can actually use it. But yeah, probably. But I think once it's unexplained, it's probably might be easier. I don't know.
I think so. And at the end of the day, like the interaction resolving and helping judges and helping like the rules be less complicated is huge. Like, I'm totally all for that. Like, I know basically every time we play a game, almost without fail, we have to stop halfway through the game to try to work out some rules interaction. Like, and we have played thousands of games at this point, and we know the rules extremely well, and we're still not sure about stuff. Maybe not every game, but often, right? Oftentimes. And if somebody has played for thousands of hours and knows the rules really well and so on and so forth, the frequency at which you should have to pop up with a rules question should not be every second game. Should be way less than that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm all for that. And the storyline in particular being easy to resolve, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I'm all... honestly, I don't know if it's... I'm just happy that the rules still exist, pretty much. So I'm not going to be too grumpy. I don't know. And maybe it's better as well from the gameplay perspective. It's hard to have a strong opinion on this one without having played any games with it.
Yeah.
So changelog. I think we'll... So when attacking undefended sites...
Hang on. I think you need to zoom in a bit. I can't read anything.
How do I zoom in again?
Control scroll wheel up.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's better.
Is that alright?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so when attacking undefended sites, the attacking unit strike, blah, blah, blah. I think we covered that in detail. Nothing new there, right? For the move and attack, you don't declare your attack target in advance. You simply resolve your movement and any triggered abilities, and then after you complete the movement, you choose to attack. I mean, the other benefit of this, we just talked about this, obviously. The other benefit of this is that procedurally it's more straightforward and it involves less decision points, so it makes the game less slow, potentially.
It also I think it makes skirmishes and move, make it easier for them to understand as well. Like with this particular thing you just read, I think it actually makes it a lot easier. Like, definitely changes them.
Because before, if you had moved whatever, like 7 League Boots example, right, and you're going past like 7 sites that have their minion, effectively each of those they would have 7 decision points, right? Like, to intercept at each point that they could possibly intercept.
Yeah.
Anyways, right, attack triggers happen only once based on the initial target of the attack. Dodge roll only works if the target was directly attacked and not if they defend. Right. So attack triggers only happen once. So
does that mean if you have a unit that triggers something when it attacks and you choose to attack a site and you defend it, the trigger would target the site and not the unit that's defending it if it was... Yeah, I think. So say you had a unit that was like, when this attacks, do 3 damage to the thing, and you chose to attack the site, you would always hit the site with whatever that trigger was and not the defended unit?
Do you have an example in mind?
No,
because nothing says that. Okay, so
I mean, like maybe going forward, but yeah, just
So maybe there's some practical examples here that are coming immediately to mind, though. So importantly, for example, so if something was attacked, attack triggers. So there's attack triggers based on the initial target, right? So you've got the example they have, but nobody plays that card. But the more pertinent example, I believe, is something like this. Because the trigger will only happen if they're attacked, whereas before, if you attacked anything, they could block instead, and then they would be attacked, and then they would trigger. But now, I believe what this is saying is that doesn't happen. They'll just die. They'll just
so that card's no longer playable.
Yeah, it was already fringe playable. Now it's
a
big loser, another big loser of the rule changes. Dodge roll was already at best fringe playable, and now that's probably also unplayable.
Does that work the same way with Valor? I don't know if Valor's worded the same way.
Oh no, this is different. This is when it defends. So
yeah.
That one not. That one would still work. So they're saying Battle Mage and Sea Raider.
I think maybe previously if they died when they attacked, it didn't happen. Now I think it credits them with the kill and it still happens. Maybe it did work the other way. I'm not sure. But that would be my guess.
So before, it's when they attack and kill an enemy. And then before, if your opponent had a defended with something, then it wouldn't have triggered because it wasn't who they attacked.
Yeah, okay.
And now it does. So Sea Raiders are better. Well, I'm not sure if they're good enough to ever play, but they're better.
Yep.
Certainly matters for limited, obviously.
Yep.
They're very playable in limited. Right, but the bigger one is Battle Mage because this part in particular, because not only does it trigger, but it triggers
for each minion killed.
Attacking kill triggers, as long as they're... Or maybe it worked that... What? Hold on. No, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it always triggered. Not sure. I never played the card, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But the big... I think the thing they're saying here is it's a trigger, so as long as there was an attack for each minion killed, this is the big difference. There's a kill credit. So if Battle Mage attacks something and they block with multiple things and you kill multiple things, you'll draw a card for each thing that you killed, which is massively different. Battle Mage has got a big buff here.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think before... How's Battle Mage worded? I think Battle Mage still drew the card even if they defended with another unit before.
Yeah, because it's not a target, right? Go back to Battle Mage. It's not a target, so it's when it attacks and kills an enemy. It's not.
You may draw a spell. Okay, so attacking kill triggers resolve as long as there was an attack. Oh, okay, so the difference, I think the big difference here is, it has to be an attack for each minion killed. I think that's the big difference. Because before you only drew one card even if you killed 2 minions. I'm sure of it with Battle Mage. So we're not really Battle Mage players, and we're certainly not Sea Raider players.
Yeah, it's just better now.
But I'm pretty sure, right? As far as I never ever saw anyone try to draw more than one card off a Battle Mage, ever. Before, I'm pretty sure you didn't draw multiple cards before if you kill multiple minions in the same attack, and now it's clearly saying you do. Yeah, and if it didn't before and you do now, that's a really significant buff because
certainly makes group blocking way worse against him, which is
one of the best things against him. Yeah. Now it's potentially a game-losing mistake. And the other thing as well is you can factor that in your deck construction now as well, right? Like your Battle Mage, you want to build stuff that is more capable of killing multiple minions in one attack if it needs to be, potentially, right? As well.
Yeah. So it just makes all of the buff cards that you would potentially play better, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Lethal is probably way better on Battle Mage now, because obviously even with just 3 power, you can kill 3 different minions if they group block you.
You cut out a bunch of times during that. I didn't know what you said.
I was just saying, if you can, Poison Dagger on Battle Mage, I'm not sure it's viable, but Poison Dagger is way better now, right? Because you could kill 3 blockers.
I was thinking about giving it, Poisonous or Death Touch or whatever, and I was like, is there a way to do that? Couldn't even remember. But yeah, that if that's the way to do it, that is absolutely better.
Off. I mean, does it make him... the thing is, Battle Mage was already...
There's a bunch of different versions that are at least A tier, right?
Yeah, I think so. We toyed around with it. Like I say, that's not true. We had toyed around with Battle Mage from time to time.
I mean, we've always tested against it in like a bunch of different forms, so we have like at least some rough understanding. We haven't like gone super deep on it, but
I mean, it's always an important one to play test against. We feel just because it mechanically plays so differently to like you get a totally different style of game when you play against it as well.
Yeah,
it's sort of just it's Avatar of Earth as well to some degree. You can bundle them up, but they basically play in a different game to what everyone else is playing. But against the Battle Mage in particular, you don't like because he's drawing the cards whenever he's killing stuff. You want to make sure that you can sort of stop him but not feed him too much as well.
Yeah. And whereas at least like Avatar of Earth, you're more than happy to chump block with like useless wizards and stuff. Whereas against Battle Mage, that feels way worse.
So it's just one that we always tested against, but it's the thing is as well, like there's always cards being added and stuff. This is just a straight up buff to an avatar that was already always playable.
Yeah.
Just more playable now. When a unit defends, it automatically becomes a legal target for the attack. Example, if I attack Whiteheart and you defend with a different minion, that Whiteheart would stop them from being able to attack it. That minion is now... Okay, so...
Yeah.
So whenever a unit defends, it automatically becomes the target of the attack, even if the attacker couldn't target it, basically.
Yeah.
Which just makes sense. I don't think there's anything too confusing there. Okay. Intercept triggers when an attack doesn't happen, not when it enters the location.
Yeah, because I think that change needed to happen for the change that was up above it. For move and attack, you don't declare your attack target. You move in, like, so you resolve movement now and then choose if you want to attack. So that basically had to change, I think, for the intercept.
U means the player. Okay. Stealth break. Yep. Unit can't. Yep. Airborne works on avatars. Yep. Immobile. Yep. Units that carry other units, if the carried unit can't move in the chosen direction, the unit doing the carrying still moves. If the two units don't share a location, it's automatically dropped. So I think this is specifically in reference to something like if you're carrying an avatar and you move into the void, then the avatar will be dropped. And it also, I think, means if you're carrying a minion with 3 or more power and you move into a Gnome Hollows with a Warhorse or something, it'll get dropped outside. I think that's what... I think... did it not? I assume it already just worked that way, and maybe this is just explicitly... Like, it never said it in the rules, and that's just how everybody played. Pretty sure everybody just played.
Maybe if you were carrying it, you couldn't move in there. I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but yeah.
Okay. Auras can be cast anywhere, including all void, if desired. So, I think auras could always be cast anywhere except for all void. So I think the only change here is that you can now cast auras in all void locations. I think this here is just clarification of the second point. I don't think it's two separate points. So pretty fringe, but I'm sure it matters in certain situations, especially on the play, because you can now cast the most obvious thing here is you could now cast an aura on turn 1, where you couldn't, if you're on the play, you couldn't, for example, go tower Evil Presence on the play, but now you can.
Why wouldn't you be able to do Evil Presence? You can cast that in the void, right? I think.
No, you couldn't. No. Yeah, so you couldn't. No, so before an aura, you couldn't. An aura always had to be over one site.
Okay.
It always had to at least be partially over a site.
Is like Summoning Sphere on turn 1, right? Now you can do it. Where it probably matters more than like an Evil Presence tower. But yeah, like both those cases.
Summoning Sphere,
both those cases matter. Yeah.
Maybe somehow you could go... What could you go? You could go... I don't know at the moment, but in the future, there's probably other stuff. You could probably somehow squeeze out a Crusade or... you can go like... You can squeeze out a Crusade off of a Mix, right, on turn 1. Or a Jihad.
Yep.
So before the Summoning Sphere is probably Evil Presence is not entirely fringe because there are Evil Presence decks at the moment.
Yeah, I was just mostly thinking for the tower. Basically it's one card less, right? So you just but both of them are just as likely as each other, I think.
So it matters for that a lot in that specific example where you can on the play and you can do that and you have neither play, pretty significant rather than just passing a turn and doing nothing.
Yep.
Outside of that, pretty fringe, but that matters for decks that plays those cards for sure.
It also could matter for later, if a Void Walk deck becomes a thing, and then all of a sudden, there's an aura that interacts with them well, but you might not be able to play that over your minions, sort of thing. So,
yeah,
probably something that's going to come up.
I would say because this rules change is kind of out of the blue. No one was questioning or asking for anything, and I doubt it was added to allow people
for no reason
to do what we just discussed. So I'm guessing the reason for this rule change is precisely because of something coming in Gothic that you want to play entirely in the Void. If I had to,
yeah,
could be totally wrong, but
yeah, if not in the next set, maybe if sets not if they've got cards they've already thought of for a few sets down the line, could just be in one of those. But yeah, they've obviously thought of something that they want that this rule matters for. Yeah,
that isn't really. I mean, maybe it's the case that people were screaming about not being able to play their Summoning Sphere on turn 1, but I never heard anybody screaming about it. I never sort of heard anybody.
I hadn't even really thought about that actually being a thing until you mentioned it, and then I'm like, I suppose that is true, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess expect an aura in the next set that you may under some circumstance want to play it all in the Void, and let's see if it's there, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen Voidwalk stuff spoiled, right? So.
Yeah, well, that dragon was Voidwalk.
Dragon had Voidwalk. There's that Dormant Monstrosity.
Oh, the big blue guy, yeah.
So.
And, that guy just by himself, screams there has to be more Voidwalk stuff, right? Because doesn't he get cheaper for more Void?
Yeah, it's pretty weird if he's the only Voidwalk card in the set.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty. So, yep. Maybe. I mean, maybe we're wrong, and there is some other reason why that really matters at the present, though, and just not coming to mind.
Yeah, that we just haven't thought of. Yeah, completely possible.
Don't know, but that's all that comes to mind, pretty much. Oversized units, yeah, whatever.
I think we already went through all that.
Clarified, how cost is calculated.
I like how they just say it's been clarified, but don't explain how it was clarified.
Yeah.
Because it's because obviously
it does in the codex. It would in the codex. So if we go, for example,
if you click on the card,
I can click on cost, and then it's going to tell me here. So this is the update. So cost is the amount of mana required to cast a spell. Cost is modified by various effects. Cost cannot be negative. Sites have a default cost of 0. When determining the cost of a spell with X value, X is the actual mana cost while the spell is on the storyline, and otherwise X is 0. To calculate the cost, fine. I think this is just saying.
No, it's the mercenaries thing, right? Because it's now you have to pay 2 if you just got a card from mercenary, because you start with the alternative cost and then add anything if you're going by what it is down there. So it goes to 0, then goes up to 2, not goes to 5 and goes to 0.
Yeah, but I think that was always the case.
Yeah, I'd never even really thought about it, but you could see it working either way, and now it's clarified that it is.
So I think there's no change here. I think all this is that they added clarification.
Yeah, I think it's just saying they clarified it. Yeah,
that's it. So, and that's great. All four having stuff like this. Now, I like the idea that we can potentially, whenever we're playing, we just have this codex open, and when we have questions, we can just type the text in and find the answers. That's where you want to end up. I'm sure it's not there at the moment, but it's something that can certainly work towards over time. So yeah, all 4, this clarification, clarified again, the application of ongoing effects. So ongoing effects. So if they do not have a listed duration, they apply indefinitely. While the source is in the realm. For example, King of the Realm's passive ability is an ongoing effect that gives you control of all mortals. Gnome Hollow's passive ability, bloody blah. Quagmire's Genesis ability. Between each event, apply all ongoing effects. That is. Okay, so what's actually going on here? Apply all ongoing effects before checking. Okay, so this probably matters. So, if there are multiple ongoing effects, you apply all of them before checking to see if any minions died. So there's an example, but the obvious thing here is if you have, if there's something, you have a minion, something that says it's going to be dead, something that gives us -2 power, something else that gives it +1 power and it has 1 power, then it would end up with 0 power or whatever. Is that right? You apply all the powers. Let's go through the example. So if it's taken, you have a boss troll that's taken 1 damage, and then if it's impacted, you move, and now it's where it moved to, it impacted by both Wicked Witch and Bannerman. If it was just Wicked Witch, it'd die, because it's -2 plus the damage, right? It'd be dead.
Yep.
But because there's a Bannerman that gives it +1, it's now going to survive. So you don't apply them one at the time and check for death in between. They just applied simultaneously.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what everybody would have been doing, but it was probably never clarified. So it's good that it's clarified.
I think that one might have been known, but yeah.
What's that one, sorry?
I think that one, I've read that one before I think when we were on the plane over to Melbourne one time and there was a big rulebook thing, that was definitely in there.
Apply ongoing effects in order. If ongoing effects overlap. Okay, so this is good. I think this is just saying there's all different types of effects. This is the order they're applied in. I think great. Because sometimes the order is going to matter under certain interactions, so knowing the order, great. Within each layer, apply the effect. I think,
looking at the way this is here, I think King of the Realm takes beasts that have been changed by Borrow Bliss. So, like, if you play a mortal that is changed into a beast and silenced from the site, you still get it? Is that right? Because it gets changed after the King of the Realm effect?
So what you're saying that you...
So say you have a King of the Realm in play, and I suppose the Borrow Bliss will turn off the King of the Realm, so it doesn't actually matter. But the way it was going down the line, King of the Realm is above Borrow Bliss, so... But yeah, obviously the Borrow silences the King, so... But I was like, because if it didn't silence the King, then the King would be taking the mortals that are affected by Borrow, which turn them into beasts, so that he would be controlling beasts.
He doesn't control beasts, he only controls mortals.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying, because of the way that it's ordered, King of the Realm would take the things, right?
It's only when they conflict or overlap. It's not just... Yeah.
But they... Yeah.
They don't conflict.
But it doesn't matter because it gets...
There's no conflict there, so it doesn't... It's only where there's a conflict. So an example of a conflict would be something like Root Spider and Tide Knights. If they're on the same site, does the Root Spider disable the Tide Knights, or does the Tide Knights flood the site and kill the Root Spider? What happens first? That's a conflict, right? So there'd be other examples of a conflict. Another example of a conflict is just a smokestacks near a smokestacks, or a King of the Realm and another King of the Realm. Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll read the rest of it. So within each layer, apply the effects based on their timestamp, from oldest to newest.
Okay. Yep.
Timestamp is when the card entered the realm. For ongoing effects, it's when it entered. For ongoing effects generated by an activated or triggered ability, example Floodplain or Bog, their timestamp is when the ability was activated or triggered, not when the original source entered the realm. It makes sense, right? So you're basically saying the order of stuff is when it happened, pretty much. So I think what that means is, well, they've got an example with 2 King of the Realms, but I'm guessing what that means is first King of the Realm wins, because it's going to be...
Yep. And I think it means if Root Spider wins, and if the Tide Naiads moves into the Root Spider site.
I think Root Spider always wins, because...
the Root Spider can't move under a Tide Naiads.
No. Yeah, can't move under. No, I mean if they end up in the same spot, if they're in the same spot.
Yeah.
So if you blink a Tide Naiads onto a Root Spider, for example.
Yeah, that would be the same as moving now.
Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But I think the reason why the Root Spider doesn't die is because... Okay, so what I think would happen in that example is you're saying... Whichever one entered the realm first, had the earliest timestamp, would have its ability applied first, yeah?
Yeah.
But no minions can die until everything's checked. So the Root Spider's always going to win, because if the Tide Naiads was cast first, it would flood the side first. Its ability would be first, but the Root Spider wouldn't die, because the Root Spider gets to disable the Tide Naiads before the death check happens, and then the site's no longer flooded. So I think in that example, Root Spider versus Tide Naiads, Root Spider always wins in that particular... but just because the death check doesn't happen in between. There's other reasons why the order would matter, which happened first. The 2 King of the Realms example, I'm assuming if you play... Whoever plays the king first effectively will get the other king. And then the other king will get everything. Would then check and get everything, get all the models. But you would already have control of it. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to say. The 2 smokestacks, it's just whichever one is in play first is going to disable the second one if it's near it, and then the second one wouldn't disable anything else. I'm guessing that's what that's going to say. Yep. That makes sense.
Yep.
And then Flood versus Drought. That might just be another version of what we just... If you play Flood and then I play Drought, the Flood happens first, and then the Drought happens and removes the Flood. Yeah, so basically Flood versus Drought, in this example, it's whoever is played second wins.
Yep.
Because it's... Yeah. I think it all makes sense, and having something like this where you have some really complicated board state as a judge, and you can just say, right, let's go through these 7 steps in order, work out what happens. I think it's great. Great having this written down. Yeah. So, nothing too complicated there, and I don't think... I think that's pretty much how it was generally always... As far as I know, there's nothing in any of that isn't how we were already resolving things, but it's really good to have it laid out. Clarified application of damage replacement or damage prevention effects. Replacement effects go first and get ordered by the controlling player as they wish. Damage prevention effects go last. You want to check that? I don't think there's going to be anything too much there.
Don't think.
It's just replacement effects go first, prevention effects happen last. It's pretty fringe, and I'm not... It's probably too fringe to want to talk about now, I imagine.
I think it's fine.
I think it's just another clarification. If adjacent effects allow the controller to choose a cardinal direction. Cool. Clarified kill credit. No link there, but we could look it up.
Well, that was the one we've already done that.
Kill credit.
The kill credit was the battle mage thing.
Oh yeah, it's linked here. Yep. FAQ changes. So this is probably the bigger one here. So removed some FAQ. Battle mage and Sea Raider abilities trigger for each minion kill. We already talked about that. So Flaming Sword is obviously quite a lot better now on Battle Mage.
Yep.
This is another big one. The Hydra is immune to non-lethal damage, as in the keyword, pretty weird to me, because I would have thought... Let's have a look. Maybe I'm wrong. But I would have thought, for the purposes of not being confusing, that keywords should be capitalized, just like this one is. Yeah?
Yeah.
It says lethal. Lethal.
Yeah. Is it not on Hydra?
Capitalized. Hydra is not capitalized. This is confusing. This is really confusing to me. So I read this as it's not the keyword because it's not capitalized.
Yeah.
This is not capitalized. So I think this is a mistake. I don't think this should have been done, because I assume it's been done to make things less confusing, but to me this has just made it way more confusing, because a key thing with keywords, yeah, I don't know, maybe. Having said that, I look at this and this clearly should be capitalized and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no consistency in it. So
well, everything else is consistent. So it's just those two things. Maybe the issue here is that the design intent of this card was supposed to be that it was immune to lethal. You know what I mean? It was supposed to work how it now works, but everybody played it differently because it wasn't capitalized. That's another possibility here. It's all consistent except, well, as you can see, there's only two cards that mention lethal that aren't capitalized. It's the Hydra and the Drums of Doom. And in the case of the Drums of Doom, clearly it's supposed to be capitalized. And
they're both cards that aren't doing lethal damage as well, right? Because all the other ones are the things doing lethal damage. This one's not. Yeah. Those two are. And potentially that's why they're not capitalized.
Potentially, yeah. So, I think the bigger question just is Hydra now playable? I guess is the question.
I think it absolutely is. I think it's really strong now. It wins literally every creature combat that is played, right? Because not many, like, basically, Questing Beast, sure. Ribble Boggart, yep. Manticore gets played a little bit. Obviously, the big one is Poison Nova, right? Poison Nova's already going to kill it. Do you want to scroll a bit?
Yeah, and Poison Nova is played a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, Poison Nova would kill anything anyway.
Yeah.
So basically, the things that get played, there's almost no minions that are going to kill it. So it wins every minion combat pretty much. And it's huge.
Well, yeah, wins or ties, I guess, against, Questing Beast is played.
Yeah.
Ribble Boggart is played and maybe gets lethal. Possibly stuff like Grim Reaper now is more playable.
Primus a little bit, but it's pretty fringe that something's going to fight with it and win. And the things that it does fight with, it's a fairly even trade anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's very playable now. I think a lot of druids will be playing this, like all the steam druids and stuff. I think they'd be more than happy to play it because they generally go to 5 or 6 mana anyway. Like it's because if you think about it, it's the Infernal Legion slot, right? It's way easier to cast. It's not triple fire. It's potentially it beats them by a lot. It's a good answer to them. It's it doesn't just kill something to turn your play it, but there's a lot of times with that card where you can't actually cast it because it's going to kill your own stuff or do damage to yourself. This you can just always jam, so it's definitely going to at least compete for that slot, if not join alongside it.
Yeah, I mean now it's obviously you still dies to Poison Nova and it still dies to Bury, Earthquake and all that jazz, but it's
but all those
upgrade
in that slot do anyway.
And it's moved. It's clearly it's a massive upgrade. It's playable. It's just whether it I don't know if it's basically a big part of the meta or not.
It's gone from unplayable to playable. Was Monster, is that part of the evil keywords?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could even have more synergy with that, right?
Yep.
Because it's Spirits, Monster, Undead. Is that it?
Yep.
No, Spirits.
No, not Spirits. Undead, Monsters, and Demons.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so even then it might even get even more synergy.
Potentially it's very, very playable after Gothic. And also just the
single threshold is
6 mana
very,
single
very
threshold
relevant.
is a really nice combination from just always being able to cast it on curve pretty much for most decks, right? Because
if it's in your deck, you're probably going to have one water, but you have by the time you have 6.
Nearly always, right? Whereas that isn't true for a triple fire, right? for...
No, not at all.
Yeah, so it's... And that's a pretty big consideration.
I mean, it's not even always true of double of an element, right? Whereas single, it... Like, if you've gone through 6 sites and you don't have one of your elements, you're probably in a lot of trouble anyway, and it doesn't matter what's happening with your 6-drop you're trying to cast.
Yep.
I think it's a very strong card now, to be honest.
Yeah, which may get way more stronger with Gothic as well.
Yes, for sure.
Merlin's ability is clarified to be a passive ability, so you can look at your top spell anytime on your turn. So I guess before there was some ambiguity as to whether you could do it in parts of your turn that weren't the main phase.
I suppose.
But you can still only cast a spell when it's normally allowed. So you can look at any time, but you can only cast them when it would normally be allowed to do so. So typically you can only cast spells during your main phase, but obviously we know Dodge Roll and Valor are exceptions. I think Valor is... where's cards? Maybe cast when an ally defends a side or another unit. So I guess if the Crave Golem attacks your own unit, you could defend it with one of your other ones. I guess that could happen. Whatever. Dodge Roll's obviously the main one. Maybe cast when an ally is attacked. So basically, at the start of your turn, the Crave Golem triggers, it attacks your own thing. You could Dodge Roll to save it. Using Merlin's ability, basically.
Yeah.
Extremely fringe. What I would say is less fringe is ignoring the Dodge Roll and the Valor for a second. But just the fact that you can check the card at any time on your turn. And I would say... So for example, let's say... You would, if you have Merlin in play, you would always end your turn knowing what the top card of your deck is, unless you are playing suboptimally, because you could always check it right before you finished your turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you'd always know at the end of your turn, but it's possible during your opponent's turn that you may draw a spell. There's various ways that can happen. Yeah.
Yep.
And then at the start of your turn, you could now check the top. You could check the top spell before deciding if you're going to draw a spell or a site for your turn. That's way less fringe.
There's also ways for your opponent to make you shuffle your deck, right? Like Feast for Crows and things like that.
Yeah.
And potentially there's mill cards in the next set. Who knows? Like that, or the set after down the line. But, the next set's focused around, like there's a lot of graveyard hate, right? So you got to assume there's something coming. So maybe there's something like that.
Yeah, so anything that causes you to draw a spell or shuffle your deck, all of a sudden, this is extremely relevant. In deciding to draw for the start of your turn, or if you're bad at the game and you forgot what the top card was when you checked last turn and you want to recheck at the start of your turn. I say bad, maybe bad at the game, bad memory or something. If your memory's that bad, you should be, I don't know, you should be working on improving remembering one card, pretty much. My memory generally isn't that great. I know yours is better than mine, but
mine's terrible.
I'm certainly capable of remembering one card. I mean, we were playing that deck where we were needing to constantly remember the bottom 7 cards of our library and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was getting, used to that. And
even if you do have like a terrible memory, you can always like have like a shorthand that you understand that your opponents won't, and just write like a note for yourself.
Oh, you don't even need that. Most people just play online, right? You don't even need that. Just have pen and paper in front of you and just write it down longhand.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
but in life, you just take notes on your life pad. You should always write down your life. Just have some sort of shorthand way to name cards that your opponent can't easily work out and write it down. But at the end of the day, it's one thing remembering the bottom 7 cards of your library potentially for the next 6 turns. It's another thing remembering one card for just your opponent's turn. Like, that should be pretty easy to do. But I would say, like I'm saying, at the end of the day, you can remember it, but then if you draw a card or it gets shuffled, that's where it really comes into play. So, so that's not fringe at all. That the example given is extremely fringe, but the example we're given now is not fringe at all. That could totally happen occasionally. Totally matter. The fact that you get to check before deciding. So Merlin's a little bit better, but still really bad. Pretty much.
Yep.
Merlin, I think, is still probably reserved to being part of a combo engine, I believe. Pretty much, right? At some point in the future.
Yeah, I think so.
And for whatever reason...
I mean, if you have a way to, like, rearrange the top, X, like, massive amount of cards of your deck, like, stack your whole deck in a certain order, then obviously, that's very combo-y, so yeah. That's where it becomes good, but yeah.
Yep. Don't think there's much else to say there.
Not really.
Clarify that Awakened Mummies cause a fight when they unburrow. Honestly, I was just saying, this card, the biggest thing for me on this card is everyone's like, it's just the wording is unclear just generally. It's like, so you look at the FAQ, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Like, surely the most significant thing about this card is what safely means. And that just isn't clarified anywhere.
I think it's like the golden rule is basically part of this card, right? Where it's like, they just mean that you can summon it borrowed without it dying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have burrowing, so then you can't move it around underground.
Yeah, but you also can't move it to the surface.
Yeah, because it doesn't have burrowing. So basically, that's how I see it anyway. That's that word.
But of all the things to clarify in the FAQ, I would say this specific thing that is the oddest part about it is worth... I say that because I know it was a couple seasons back in the online league, I played against someone who had this card in their deck, and they were not having any of it when I was telling them that they can't just move them to the surface.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're like, oh, it's really bad then. Who would play it? And I'm like, yeah, nobody. Nobody plays it because it's really bad. So, but yeah, so that was like quite the thing, going to the rules and them getting really upset about it, and all of that could have just been avoided if somewhere on the FAQ for the card it literally says, you can't, like, this is how it works. So, anyways, in regards to, obviously the Intercept rule has changed because it doesn't work on entry, so the trigger's changed. So now it basically is saying, rather than working however it worked before, now it's saying when a unit moves onto the ground above them, they unburrow and fight. So this would be... I assume this is not where they end their movement or anything, right? It's just mid-movement that this is going to happen if they have multiple move.
I think so. I think the the big change that they had, like, with why they added that is because of the way you move in, you finish your movement, and then you choose to attack now. So this sort of stops that. Like, whereas as soon as you move in, they come up and, like, this is the fight.
Yeah. I mean, well, no, because it... Ooh, what are you saying, sorry? I don't think I think this triggers when an enemy unit moves onto the ground above them, not where it ends their movement on the ground above them.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. I'm saying, like, it's both things, right? Because if you scroll up all the way back up to the top, for the second line, like, for move and attack, you don't declare your attack in advance now.
Yeah.
Like, you simply move in. So it's basically removing that whole second ability to even declare your attack.
Second ability. Not from the... I thought you were talking about the models.
Well, no, it's where you... Yeah. It's that whole... Well, not so much ability, but, that whole second half of move and attack.
Okay.
So you don't even choose, that just gets interrupted, right? You just move and then you wouldn't even choose an attack for if that mattered for some other reason. This would just interrupt that ability.
But I think...
And as you're saying, right, for movement plus X, it stops all those as well.
Well, I don't think it stops it. This would be interesting to get a rules clarification. So I think it would go onto this... So I think effectively how it works is you would resolve the movement one step at a time, and then when it moves on the ground above them, this would then interrupt the storyline. It would unborrow and fight. So let's say, for argument's sake, it was an... I don't know.
If the other unit killed it, would it keep moving?
I think so, yeah. That's the question. I think the answer is yes, based on my understanding of all these rule changes, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's no. But my understanding is it would be yes, because I haven't read anywhere where it says fighting stops movement.
Yeah.
It hasn't been intercepted. It doesn't say intercept. It says fight. It doesn't say defend. It says fight specifically. And I don't think fighting stops movement. It hadn't said anywhere. I'm pretty sure that we've read so far. So I think what would happen is, the fight would happen, and if whatever the mummies fought lived, then it would obviously take the 3 damage, but would just keep going.
The other question is, does the mummy come up and keep moving with the other unit and fight at the end of the movement path?
No. I don't think so. Because the movement is still does it say here anywhere? The movement is still resolved one step at a time on the storyline. So we get to the storyline mechanics, but effectively how the storyline works is it's last in, first out.
Yeah.
So effectively, and you resolve the movement one step at a time. So you would move on there, it would trigger the mummies, they would come to the surface and fight. That was the last thing in, now it's the first thing out.
I wasn't sure if the intercept changed all the multiple movement things or not, but...
No, so I think, for example, like a shark would still just, hit and hit and hit and hit on each movement still.
Yeah,
okay. So you still get all of the triggered abilities from the movement, but what you don't have is the choice to intercept at each point. Which obviously gets really complicated with... Well, anyway, we've already talked about that, yeah. About how changing the intercept rule could help make things less complicated in really complicated examples. So there isn't, in any case, I don't suppose Awakened Mummies is... But they obviously scrapped the intercept rule and it says intercept, or they changed it so that it doesn't work with it anymore. They obviously needed to do something with them, and they did something, and they've now were previously unplayable, and now they're still unplayable, basically. But they had to be updated.
Pretty much.
Clarified Crave Golem's ability. I don't need a clarification. I think there were some questions about the text here. I remember that there were some stuff there. So I think in summary it works how you think it would work, but people were debating how it would work. So for example, can it attack units with airborne? People are...
I would assume no, because it can't choose to attack something with airborne, right?
Well, it's no. It's clarified as no, but people were debating it before. So...
I mean, attacks still have to be legal, right? So...
Yeah, but that wasn't clear on it either, because it wasn't the regular move and attack ability.
Yeah, I suppose that's... It just has to be within
I think in summary, all they've done is clarified it in the FAQ to work how you think it would work, but it wasn't previously clarified in summary, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything too controversial there or worth worrying about too much.
Yeah, seems fun.
Some cards were updated.
I think it's banned in Australia. Anyway, haha.
Let's go through.
Maybe that's why it was that he chose to ban that instead of the monk part of it.
Possibly, yeah. Ascalon thing. Alright, let's check what they've updated. So, try and guess here. Oh, I think is this the clarification? What fire damage actually is? That would make sense.
I think that was already part of it. But maybe it wasn't on the codex. Maybe it was from the other rules clarification thing. Maybe they just added it to this.
Because there's nothing else here that would even be the slightest bit.
Whether that is the only fact, right? So
yeah, but they might have expanded it or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, okay. So it's a fire spell or ability. Oh, importantly, a fire sight, which is could be a thing. So like a desert would pump it up.
Yep.
Cool. I mean, it's probably more or less just how we thought it worked, right? But again,
yeah. Well, it's already been clarified. Like,
you're happy with the clarification?
Yeah.
Druid is clarified. I think it's to do with the kill credit. Must be.
Wait.
Does Druid's flip ability? We already knew that it didn't work with Poisonous Dagger.
Yeah.
If it loses its ability, does the Druid's flip side ability still apply? Maybe it's this bit. If a sight loses its abilities, does the Druid's flip ability? Yeah, of course it does, because it still is the Druid. I think that was noted.
Yeah, it's the Druid doing it. Yeah.
Can the Druid's flip side ability give Druid? Must be the kill, because they're talking about kill credits in the rules. So I'm guessing
that's probably that.
Clarify the kill credit. So yes, in the kill credit calculation, the ability wouldn't apply at priority 1, since the sight is dealing the damage, not the Druid. But it's still the Druid's triggered ability, therefore it would grant the kill credit at priority 3. You see kill credit in the codex, so we're saying, yeah. So I don't think we checked this before, did we?
No.
So some effects, who did the killing, only units can get a kill credit. Determine credit for a kill when a minion dies. Mark for death in, yeah. So it's just basically a way how you work out who killed something, according to some rules. This already existed before, it's not here, right? This information.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think this has just got my mind working that stuff like the trebuchet and whatever is actually massively nerfed now, right? Because you can't drop it after you use it. Is that right?
Well, you don't carry trebuchet either.
It says tap bearer.
Do you? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. So all right. Well, they're way worse. Like, especially mostly, this and what is the other one? The ballista, is that it? Yeah.
Siege ballista.
They were already like
pretty bad. Well, fringe, right on the fringes of playable, and probably we're only ever going to see playing a deck that could actually drop them, pretty much. And now,
I mean, it was certainly possible to get like 4 units on a site and use it twice. Right now, I mean, you can't drop it, so it's just like lost what little extra power it had, and now it's just a one-shot thing. It's much worse than what it used to be.
Right.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but this drop change has got like so many more like far-reaching applications that we didn't think of at first, and I mean, there's a good chance maybe
we were mostly just thinking about the cards
as well.
That we ever played, but yeah, there's a lot of all right. Updraft Ridge. I already know what this would be because I know this has had confusion when I've looked at it. The obvious thing is once they leave, they no longer had the movement +1, so they what happened?
Yeah, okay.
And now they've just reworded it to avoid that confusion, because obviously they're supposed to be able to move 1 extra movement. That was what was obviously.
I mean, this really feels like it's one of those golden rule sort of cards, but they've just added a like clarification of this is what the golden rule for it actually is.
Archimago.
Maybe this has something to do with the U thing, but don't know.
When I cast, is it place no? Do I have to pay the mana? That was already when used. This maybe was added. That the Archimago doesn't have to be the passive because it doesn't say U.
I think that might have already been there but then the U rule got changed. Maybe
no, but it doesn't say U. Oh, it says your cemetery. Yeah,
yeah,
but it doesn't say you may banish. It just says banish.
Yeah. But no, it's just the caster copy. Or maybe that's...
But this was temporarily one of those avatars that was getting changed.
That got changed a few times, yeah.
So, anyway, so it's there.
That's why I'm not sure of which way around it is, but yeah.
This might be the one that was added here. What happens if I pay the cost of banishing the 3 spells, but I cannot actually cast any of them? That I didn't know the answer to that. I'm guessing this wasn't here before. If you cannot cast any of the 3 spells, they remain banished and nothing else happens. Okay. This is very relevant for something like if they play Courtesan Tice, right, and take your turn, they can remove everything, even if they can't cast it.
Yeah, but it's also potentially relevant for yourself if you just want to get 3 particular cards out of your graveyard as well, right? Mostly that would be for the reasoning of like not letting them cast a particular spell if you expect them to have Tice and you just want to banish 3 cards, right? Because it seems like you can just choose to banish 3.
Yep.
And then not cast one, right?
Yep.
If you can cast one of the 3, you must. So it's like, but yeah, you can still just choose to, banish 3 when you have no mana left and just not cast any of them.
Yep. yeah, so you just play it your turn and banish the rest.
Yeah.
Whether that's you doing it for you or your opponent doing it for you, basically.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
I'm guessing this is what was added. Okay, this might have been added as well. So you can't plus Valor or Dodge Roll because you can only play activate a bit of abilities on the main phase. Fine.
Yeah.
Geomancer. What's the Geomancer change? Any idea?
No idea.
It's not the first one. It's not the second one. It's this one. It's the third one. So if you play Mirror Realm or Valley of Delight, choosing Earth, does it count? Yes, because of the rules on the storyline that they added. So effectively, I could read through it. But what's going to happen is you replace an adjacent rubble with the topmost site of your Atlas. Is that what's happening? No, that's the first one. If you played an Earth site, play or draw a site. So that if you played an Earth site, fill the void. Yeah. So what's going to happen is this is 2 distinct, separate things on the storyline. Yeah.
I don't think this has changed. I think this is how it always worked.
Yeah, possibly, but it's clarified.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Mirror Realm entered as the copy, so that was never controversial at all. Anyway, it's just the other one, right? The Valley of Delight, because it gains a threshold as Genesis after it's entered play.
Mm.
So what's basically happening is you play the site, then the site comes into play. Then the Genesis will trigger because it came into play, and then that will resolve before the rest of the storyline continues with the second part of this card.
Yeah.
And then after the Genesis has resolved, it's then going to check. So I don't think there's nothing too exciting there for you.
No.
And then Vivienne, I'm guessing what this is because there was something that was always a question mark about it. Let's have a check. That was clear. That since avatars are spellcasters, is Vivienne a spellcaster? This is interesting. I don't know if this was clarified before.
That was already there.
Can Vivienne, the Enchantress, copy the abilities of another Vivienne, the Enchantress?
Yeah, she's not a spellcaster, so it doesn't. Which we already knew.
This is the one that was. So this is the one that everyone was unsure. So what if Vivienne uses the Druid's ability to summon Bruin and flip? She summons Bruin, then flips. As a flip card with nothing on the back, she has no game text.
I think we definitely already knew this, but
I don't think it was on the FAQ.
Yeah, but I think this is the update. Yeah.
She's no longer a minion. She has no card topper abilities. It can exist in the void, and technically she can turn off Pristine Paradise. That's interesting.
It's a good way to infinitely turn off a Pristine Paradise.
Well, there may be other interactions in addition to Pristine Paradise where that conceivably matters. Yeah. Especially through the lens of there might be a positive thing for something in your own deck, and then you could play Druid to play Vivienne to purposely flip your own Vivienne to do something really good. in the future, potentially, right? So, yeah.
Certainly an interaction that might mean something or may never mean something.
It's one of those ones as well that if somebody actually works out a way to break that interaction, then they will change the rules anyway so that it doesn't work that way. Pretty much.
Probably.
So, yeah, I'm not going to stay up all night every night for the coming years trying to think of how to break that one, because I think you'll be a wasted effort. Right. I think we got through it all. So, should have had some It's probably better to look at this thing here. Rules, changes. Go through the bigger ones here. I mean, we sort of talked about if we liked them or we didn't like them. I think the one question, I don't think we have to talk about anything individually. I think it's just more like as a rules update. So one thing as well that I know got me thinking a little bit about the rules. I played, as always, registered for the league and then ended up scrambling. Not as much as normal. In previous seasons, I ended up scrambling in the last couple of days to try to play all the matches, and that's a nightmare. This time I was scrambling in the last week, and a little bit less stressful. And I played somebody in one of the rounds who had played Sorcery a lot in the early days and took a long break, and they'd just come back for this league. And they cast an Ice Lance during the game that would have won the game for them, but didn't because of the change in the rules that they weren't aware of, basically.
Yeah. And
got me thinking about that rules change in particular, just that with the projectiles, how you previously could choose where the projectile started from, and now you've effectively streamlined the rules and maybe made it easy to explain, maybe not, to be honest, because we explained the rules for the projectiles. I'm not sure that's any easier to explain than how it previously worked, quite frankly, but I was kind of just thinking, I'm not sure it's better, if you know what I mean. Like, it's because before you have the option, you have more lines of play open. You know what I mean? And more opportunity to show skill.
Yeah.
So I think,
I suppose the flip side of that is if there's less choice, it's easier to pick up and understand sometimes. But yeah, generally we're always on the side of more choice is better, like more skill expression better. But when there's already quite a lot, maybe
simple
is better. Like it is it definitely has value simplifying when there's still a lot of skill expression, right? But
there's plenty. Yeah, I think that's sort of where I was going. So I think where I was sort of going with that generally is that I definitely prefer how they used to work, but I don't. But until that happened, I sort of stopped thinking about it too much. Other than whenever I see Ice Lance in the card list, I'm like, ugh. Like, you're building a deck that has water and it just needs that good card to be able to do what Ice Lance used to do, pretty much. And it doesn't have any clean replacement. Maybe it will.
I suppose that. No, it already has it. It has Snowball.
Well, it's not clean for a few. Yeah, it's not clean for a few reasons, but.
Yeah, I suppose. But
it costs a lot more. It's not ordinary, so you can't play one off the common sense for it in a water earth deck and whatever. So, big deal when you're building Wolves decks, pretty much. Let's put it that way. The lack of that card. So, it's... Yeah, but... And having said all that, like, I don't really miss... Like, I preferred the old rule, but I don't care anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm fine with how they work now. So it's like, even when rules change, if they're not, you don't really like the change as such. There's sort of two versions of that. There's one where it's a personal preference that you don't like it compared to what you had, sort of thing. But then there's another version where you dislike it. There's a difference between not liking it and disliking it, if you know what I mean. Is that whenever I say something like that, most people get confused, because then whenever they say they don't like something, what they really mean is they dislike it. They don't actually mean that they don't like it. But there is a clear difference between disliking something and not liking something. And I don't, even though there's some things here that I personally don't like, I don't really dislike anything. pretty much, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? I don't know if you feel the same way, but...
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of like how I feel about what you're saying, basically, and
like this stuff, like my personal preference would be to have not changed certain things, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm not going to get in a huff. I think the biggest thing I bump into with any of these things is the way that, like, most of them are intentioned at just trying to make things clearer and like easier to explain and things like that. But, and we mentioned them, like the things that don't do that, like the way like they're explained just doesn't do that. Like, you know, with the naming one in particular for interact with the realm or whatever, but it's just not, and doesn't include all interactions. It's like that things like that in this are the only things I don't mind any of the rule changes in particular. I think the drop one might actually be a much bigger issue than the small thing they were trying to fix with it is going to cause. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But, you know, just even as we're going over a few extra things, it's like, oh, does this change? Does this change? How's this impacted? It's like, I think that's going to cause some big issues going forward, but hopefully it doesn't. And hopefully the issues that it does cause, like, it opens up more design spaces than, like, you know, opportunities for things going forward than it did for what we're losing and the issues that it's causing now. So, I mean, it's also
overall, I don't mind any of it.
That it's imminent as well, right? Like, there's just artifacts coming in Gothic that just they couldn't, like, whatever they do, they couldn't exist if you could drop, like, they'd just be totally broken if you could drop them and do the, you know, like bearer taps to do some broken effect, and if you could just somehow go through 7 frogs to tap it 7 times in one turn or whatever, it'd just be completely busted. So
I suppose actually, no, that's another change. If you have like a cycle with manuscript, right, and something in the chain of minions doesn't die, you can't drop it anymore.
Yeah.
So you can't, like, you can only use it on things that are going to kill if you want to keep chaining. That might be an issue.
Yeah.
The hits just keep coming.
But I'm not.
But yeah, overall, I think most of the changes are not really, you know, I'm not offended by.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I'm like. There's some that I like just because it's like, yeah, it's better for the game's less complicated for newer players, and you remove a bit of the skill, but trade-off's worth it ultimately, probably. But I'm just trying to check if there's anything that I'm actually excited about. I mean, like I was saying, to some degree, I don't necessarily like the change to Intercept, but I'm excited that Intercept wasn't removed. If that makes sense.
I think the only exciting thing is how ridiculous Pudge is going to be, but that's also, you know, can be taken either way. Like, it's exciting, and, you know, maybe we want to play Pudge and, you know, and find different ways to break it, but it's also, now we're going to have to take Pudge into consideration whenever we build something, and it's like, can we beat Pudge? If the answer's no, the deck probably just goes on the bin.
Yeah, and we already had not the funnest time when we basically already had that with maddening bells in the past, right? It's not fun when you know, not 90 whatever % of deck ideas are immediately binned because one card exists, but maybe it won't be that bad, but maybe it will. Pretty much. I mean,
but like, on the flip side, Pudge is easier to deal with.
Pudge is also a demon, by the way, I think. So
he's in the evil category, right? So
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know. So yeah, I get them. I get all the rules. I think the striking the sights, get it. The interaction thing, like you're saying, maybe you could have called it something different, but whatever, get it. This thing is just really fringe and doesn't even really matter. The immobile means immobile. I think, yes, like, I can speak from experience that people can get. It isn't that easy to explain, sort of, or particularly it's easy to explain, but it was difficult for people to remember what the difference between immobile and disabled was, because the explanation is something.
I think that was a big thing for me, where they were so similar that it almost felt like it just shouldn't have even been. They should have just made them disabled, right? Instead of having 2 different keywords that are almost the same. And this is the other version of it, right? Where you actually just make them so drastically different that it's worth having both keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, and you won't get confused between them. And this is pretty easy to explain. Probably of all the rule changes, I'm most happy about this, but obviously you've just now got some like legacy/regression issue that, you know, cards already had Immobile, and they're all basically either going to be big winners or big losers from the change. But there was only like 5 cards or something, so it's...
Yeah, it's basically 1 massive winner, 1 who cares, and 2 definite losses, and then a change, right, in the way the enchantment works.
And new means we're probably pretty happy with that. It's not that big deal either way, but
I think it's the fact that it's clarified is good.
This one is just fringe as well. Intercept, like I said, happy that it still exists. It's definitely better for the game, I think, that we have this rule than no intercept rule. I'm sure about that. So yeah, I mean, overall, like, yeah, a thing is, as we're reading this, it's a bit of a shame that this skill... I think overall these changes slightly reduce the impact of skill on the game, really slightly, but like we're saying, it's great that the game is skilled. Like, part of the reason why the game is so immersive and you can play it and it's so repetitive, like you can get a lot of repeat plays. Was there a term for that? Like, you can
maybe, don't know. Not that I'm
replayability. It's got a huge amount of replayability. That's the term. Because of the fact that it has skill. If it was just like a random dice rolling fest where you just showed up and funny cool things happened, but everything was just totally random and none of your decisions really meant anything, that might be fun for some people, but it certainly would, the fun would die off pretty fast, and people play the game in the long term because there's a skill element to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a shame that... Now, having said that, we've also had the there's another announcement with some of the Gothic stuff with the extra... What's it called? The collection board, or maybe... I'm pretty sure that's going to add skill to the game, so it's like I'm more happy with the trade-off here. A little bit of skill removed from the rules. Maybe a little bit more than a little bit added back into the game through these other changes. So... overall, maybe net gain for skill to the game, hopefully, but not a clear loss. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a bit hard. I think on the most part, these changes went not like, I don't know. It's hard to. It's a weird combination of agree with them, make sense on the whole, not. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're rules. Rules are rarely going to be too exciting, and I'm not sure that any of this stuff is that exciting. The most exciting thing for me is that they didn't remove the intercept rule. On the whole, I would say.
Because they didn't what? You cut out.
The most exciting thing with the rule changes is that they didn't remove the intercept rule.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting that to go, pretty much.
One thing we didn't talk about, though, is one thing I expected to come on to this that didn't is a change to the mulligan rule. Like, with the way they've been doing it. It seemed very positive, right? And most people were like, yeah, this is just good. It should be in the game. So I thought that was a bit odd that they didn't change anything there.
I think so, too. I mean, I'm not sure if it's odd or not. I can see it's a bit... I don't know if I'm fortunate. I would really love to see, of all the things, that's the thing I wanted to see the most in the rules, actually. It's just... Maybe
they just have like a different way they want to, like a different path they want to take with it that they're not quite, they haven't done all the finishing polishes and not quite ready for. Maybe that's why there's nothing about it. But yeah, that does seem like a big one to miss. That
might be it. I mean, they typically only, well, who knows? They're saying... The moment, it's like they've more or less been doing one rules update per year, but obviously they could just change the rules at any moment. I think if it's just literally no rules changes and just the mulligan rule, and that was it, they can do that any time, pretty much. There's also the prospect here where they don't actually formally change the mulligan rule as such. They just have a tournament mulligan rule, or whatever you want to call it. That's all that's really needed, right? Yeah. The competitive play mulligan rule. You don't need it to apply to the base game as such. But
one other thing I suppose we didn't mention also is how close the big massive rule change is to Gen Con, because that's not far out, right? Like, that's definitely going to have a big impact on the tournament. So that might really affect some people. But I mean, you have to do it at some point, and there's only like, you know, they just announced a big tournament season coming up, right, for the rest of the year. So I suppose now's better than later. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, if you
a little bit of clash there, which isn't great.
That would also be true, though, right? Now's better than later, just because.
Yes.
In that regard, just because it's I remember last year that we had spent ages preparing a deck, and there was like a double whammy of tournament rule changes for deck construction, like ban lists and whatever, which really worked against us. But also, then immediately following that, a few days later, there was the rules update that
Mulligan rule that killed all the other decks that we had.
Particular changes. Yeah, so we basically went from, we had one deck that survived the Mulligan rule change pretty okay, but then the tournament rule changes to, I can't remember what it was. It was like,
it was the roots change.
There was a second roots change. So there was one already that roots and crossroads couldn't be played in the same atlas, and then there was a separate last minute rule change to say that roots also destroyed mana or something. And
yeah, it was like everything means everything, so it blew up mana as well.
No, everything means everything except what it doesn't mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, like it didn't. Yeah. So it didn't include cards in hand or whatever, right? So
yeah, it was just everything in the realm.
Everything
itself,
includes everything that it used to include, but also your mana, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's all it really meant. But yeah, so there was that, but then also effectively all of our backup decks or our other decks that we'd built along the way were all sort of designed to push the Mulligan rule, which, you know, was really pushable before to the max, and they were all way worse decks with the new Mulligan rule. So it matters. That's all I'm really. Yeah, the Mulligan rule matters a lot for deck construction, way more than may be apparent to some people. Pretty much. It's
I know if we were going to deck, it would have been very frustrating timing for us. That's for sure.
Well, we likely already would have had our deck ready.
Yeah,
we'd be locking in on the final sort of the final stretch of the refinement and potentially all of this.
Well, just imagine if we had have come up with our, you know, Philo swap hot swap deck, like, and then they release this, we would have been like, well, this deck is completely gone and now we need to scramble. Like, that's, you know, completely deletes a deck. So there could be plenty of people who are doing similar things, right? And they're all of a sudden they're like scrambling right before an event. And
well, that's literally what happened to us last year, though.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And interestingly,
imagine if it happened to us again.
That's what led to the Philosopher's Stone hot rot deck. It was that's how we ended up playing it, right? Because that was just something that we were just playing around with, having a bit of fun, and sort of dropped it. But then we basically had all of our decks taken away from us 1 week. Was it 1 week before the tournament? 1.5 weeks, something like that.
I think it would have been about 1.5, I reckon. It was very close.
And then we basically built that deck in 1.5 weeks. It's pretty crazy, but like I don't want to do. Anyway, so the Mulligan rule is something that, in my opinion, is from a is the most important, is the biggest issue with the game. Actually, it's such a massive advantage for going first. I know. I'm curious now. I'm not gonna pull it up separately, but I know in the league last season with the changes to the Mulligan rule, it ended up about 50-50 playing or going second. So for those who don't know, the Mulligan rule in the online league is that if you go second, you can look at, if you do the normal Mulligan, both players, and then after both players have done the normal Mulligan, but before the player going first has their first turn, the player who's going second can look at either the top card of their spellbook or their atlas, and they can put it on the bottom if they choose to. And with that change, it sort of resulted in the win rate being about 50-50. But it's still a massive... Well, we're fairly certain it was still a massive advantage going first, and that's not enough to equal it out, but obviously it helps offset it, right? But I think in the online league this season, which is something that I was going to try and quickly check, is that the win rate for going first is better than the win rate for going second, if that makes sense. Trying to... Yeah, so before it was about 50-50 exactly, but now it's up to 53% versus 47% going first.
Yeah, so it's still decent golf.
Right? Oh, no, that's... Does the first player win? Yeah. So now it's like, already statistically relevant, but I think it's bigger than that, the advantage. The reason why it's narrow is because it's, on the whole, in order to properly take advantage of going first, you have to be able to leverage multiple aspects of the game to your advantage, not just literally going first, right, but leveraging that into like dictating site placements, pushing the tempo advantage, etc., right? Like, you have to actually, if you're going first is a bigger advantage if you're better at the game, in other words, right? So as people get better, as the average level of skill of everybody who's playing in the league increases, I would expect the win rate for going first to increase with the current mulligan rule, because the current mulligan rule isn't enough to balance it out, basically. But I would have been very happy to see just that mulligan rule applied to formally for now, because it's still quite an advantage to go first even with it, and without it, it's a massive advantage to go first. I mean, we did a lot of testing. I mean, where are we landing? Like 60-40? Something like that?
I think, yeah, I'm not sure. But we were, because, like, we were trying to work the deck around in such a way that being on the draw with that mulligan rule, you can potentially change a bunch of different cards so that you can really leverage it as well. And I think if we push that to the absolute limit, there would be decks that would be make or break, whether it was like S tier, A tier, or even playable, based around doing something like that. So overall, I think, small changes like that you can always, guarantee happens in a particular game, you can really try and leverage. So if there was a change made, it could also completely change the way decks are built just around a mulligan roll. So it's hard to... It's definitely... I sort of understand them. If they have a different thing that they want to do, just like not mentioning it in this sort of post and just being like, we're not ready, we haven't decided on a path to go down, so just staying away from it, especially since they've already just changed so much. Maybe they change all these things and the going first thing isn't as important, right? So maybe it helps. Maybe they don't even need to make a change just because of all the changes. They've pulled enough levers. Let's see what happens with these levers, and then if we need to pull more, we'll pull more. Yeah. Is also another path they could be going down.
But I would say that the biggest reason to actually want to make the mulligan, like the situation with going first or second, fairer, I would say is psychology as well. Like, it, for example, if everybody knows that it's an advantage to go first, then there's a couple things that happen here. So one, you roll the dice at the start of the game, so to speak, right? And whoever rolls highest chooses, but not really, right? They just get to go first, pretty much, right? Because they're always going to choose to go first.
Yeah.
So, and if both players know that the choice is a foregone conclusion, and both players know that whoever loses the dice roll is at an immediate disadvantage before you've even started, before you've even drawn a card, you're already on the back foot. You know what I mean? Like, then you basically got somebody already in a strop, already feeling bad, already having a bad time before you've even started. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I think that's probably the main reason to just want to make it fairer, is just to sort of avoid that real having that big feel bad moment before the game even starts. But then,
and I mean, there is. Sorry. I was just about to say, like, on that sort of like line of thought. There is particular systems that you could even implement so that it's like, if you want to keep it as going first is an advantage, you potentially have like, instead of a dice roll determining the outcome, you could potentially have like an initiative system through like avatars having like, maybe you have like a avatar with a slightly less powerful ability, but they go first more often through like a thing. Or you have like in a deck building process where perhaps the person with the most cards in their deck always chooses whether or not to go first or play second, and then your disadvantage of like, you get a disadvantage in your deck's less consistent by playing more cards, but you're going to go first, things like that. So there's also, though, there's plenty of different levers they can actually choose with this. There isn't just roll a dice and see what the outcome is.
Yeah.
If they want to keep that advantage.
I mean, I would, even if you're going to keep it as is, right, and you don't want to do any of those things, then I would say that you could put it into the matchmaking system in the tournament, where it just the matchmaking just says, we're playing each other and you're going first or I'm going first. Like it builds it into
like the pairing system. That's the same as rolling a dice, right?
No. Like, so the difference could be though is that the pairing system automatically lets the person go first if they've played first less times than their opponent had in the same tournament so far.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So in the first round, it randomly decides, but in every subsequent round, whoever's played first the least gets to go first, and if it's a tie, then it randomly decides, basically, right? So that way you wouldn't have situations, which I've seen and I've had, where you're playing in a 5-round tournament, and you're 4 rounds in, and you've been on the draw every time because you've lost every dice roll, and then, combined with the fact that you're at what we think is at least a 20% difference in win rate, being on the draw with no mulligan rule, right? It's at least 60-40. 60 versus 40, at least, possibly more. So, if you lose multiple, like, all your dice rolls, and then you combine that with the massive disadvantage, at least so at least with that, you could basically say, well, come the end, literally, everyone will have played a similar... You won't have anybody going first every time or going second every time or whatever, right? So
yeah, it's going to be at least somewhat fair.
But I think there's a very big opportunity for the game to be a better game, because there is an actual decision as to whether you want... you do roll or whatever, somebody decides, but it's an actual decision. Like, in some matchups... In some matchups, it's better to go first. Yeah, in some matchups, it's better to go second. And it's up to you to understand those matchups and make the right decision if you win the roll, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best option.
Because then effectively the game in a way has already started before it's even started, if you know what I mean. Like you're already playing the game as such, just making that decision. So, and I think the mulligan rule in the online league, it's not quite at that level, but it's almost there. It's not.
It's like, certainly moving that direction compared to the other direction.
It is a choice that you would want to think about in the online league, but nearly all the time it's correct to go first. But importantly, it's nearly all the time it's correct to go first, not 100% of the time under all circumstances always go first, which is a difference. Like, yeah. So, a bit sad to not see that, because I think from a competitive standpoint, that's actually the singular biggest issue with the whole game, I think. The mulligan rule. The fact that before anything's even started, somebody's at a massive disadvantage. Which does not feel particularly competitive at all.
And it's not through any kind of skill, it's just through, like, rolling a dice. A complete, like, luck outcome.
Yep. So that's probably, like you're saying, I mean, it's just come up here at the end, but that's actually the most disappointing thing about the rules update is no clarification there. But like you said, it might just be they actually do have something in mind. Maybe they're just not quite ready.
Yeah, they're just not ready.
So maybe I wouldn't read too much into it not being here, but just because it's not here doesn't mean it isn't coming. But what it does mean is that it hasn't come yet, pretty much. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly on their radar, right? Like, they've been always asking people for feedback on it. So they know it's an issue. They clearly want to do something with it, but the demand does not be ready. So
yeah, and the fact that they're trying, like, the online league is not this specific one, the IRA ones, is not insignificant. Like stuff they were trying the no intercept rule there, right? Clearly, the feedback has come through that it's a worse game without it.
Yeah, it's certainly a testing area for them.
Yeah, like I'm sure if the overwhelming feedback of no intercept rule was that everybody loved it, then this would not be the rule change. The rule change would be that it's gone.
Yes.
Right? So, and I think...
Yeah, because the overwhelming majority was like, oh, this is great with no intercept, then it would just be gone, most likely. Whereas this
but that
is
wasn't
clearly...
the feedback. And I believe the feedback for the Mulligan rule is overwhelmingly like positive compared to the previous one, right? It doesn't mean that everybody, if you said you could choose any Mulligan rule that you want, then it would be a totally different argument. I'm sure everybody would have all sorts of different ideas what it should be. But if it's just between A and B, what it currently is in the game and what they do for the online league, well, I know that they, I don't know, yeah. I know. I just know for a fact that it's overwhelmingly in favour that people would want to keep it. So,
anybody I've talked to has always been positive about it.
So I'm sure they're aware of that now. As to whether that means what that means, who knows? But the notion that they aren't aware of it is, I'm 100% sure they're aware. Basically, they're aware. By aware, I mean they'd be perfectly aware that it's an advantage to go first. Now, as to whether they're aware of the significance of that advantage, I don't know, because the advantage of going first, as we're saying, it gets more and more and more significant the better you are at the game. And the reason why we're talking in terms of it's 60-something% win rate going first, 30-something% going second, is because in our playtesting, we play both decks together, and we make sure that both decks are playing optimally, doing the perfect move. And in that setup where both decks are playing optimally and nobody's making any mistakes, that's the end result, right? 60-something% win rate for going first, 30-something% for going second.
Yeah.
So now, when most people are talking about the win rate for going first versus for going second, that's not the environment they're talking about. They're talking about, people making mistakes.
Yeah, there's so many other factors that are involved to skew the results. So
I'm sure they're aware that it's an advantage to go first, but I'm not sure they're aware that it's that big. Basically, in the highest levels of skill, if you like, or no mistakes, however you want to frame it. But I'm sure they're aware, and I'm sure they're aware that there's this other Mulligan rule being trialed in the online league for 2 seasons now. I think it is, maybe more. So
yeah, it wasn't in for the one I played, and this is the second season since.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So, I'm sure they're aware of all of it, but who only knows what that means in regards to what's coming or what isn't coming? Don't know. But I would love to see something that, I would love to see something that sometimes it's better to go first, sometimes it's better to go second, and there's an actual choice. Don't care what it is, as long as there's an actual choice, a meaningful choice. So, sorry, I'll let you say what you like. No, okay.
I was just in the same boat, right? Where I if it was an option, I'd be very happy. But whereas at the moment, it's basically not an option. But with the league Mulligan rule, it's a consideration. But it's still if you're unsure, you just choose to go first, right? It's not a close choice. It's more of a I should go first, but maybe there's a fringe scenario where I don't. Whereas, if they can get that being closer to actually choosing which one you want to do, that's the dream, right?
Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. So, we done here?
I think so.
Alright. Well, we'll wrap it up. We're not exactly rules experts. We're just rules, I don't know, what's one step down from an expert? Enthusiasts or something? We know the rules pretty well.
Expert.
You can ask questions on the video about any of this or the rules. We probably can answer them. You obviously there's rules channel on the official Discord and the Sorcery League. People are pretty good answering there as well. But yeah, this is a bit of a weird one. We just cover off the rules. I don't know if there's anything too exciting here. At the end of the day, it's just rules. But thanks for watching. Guess if you're still watching at this point, you found all of our waffling somewhat interesting. So, catch you. Got any closing thought, Jarrod?
No, not particularly.
Alright, no closing thoughts. We'll leave it here. Keep safe, keep well, keep enjoying your sorcery, and we'll see you for the next one.